Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening, and thank you for your patience in getting started. Today's a lovely day to discuss the city budget, so hopefully you all are enjoying outside's weather. Yeah, great day to talk about water. That's a great comment, Councilmember Farrell. With that, welcome to the October 30th meeting of the Finance, Taxation, and Assessment Committee to discuss the proposed budget for this upcoming year. Topics for discussion, we're going to go over the Albany Water Department budget to start. Then we'll go into the Department of General Services and the Department of Engineering. Additionally, we are going to discuss a number of local laws and ordinances related to our agency or our department presentations, including Local Law D of 2025, Ordinance 33-101-25, Ordinance 34-101-25, Ordinance 49-101-25, Ordinance 50, which I think I skipped over a whole page. Okay, Ordinance 33-101-25 through Ordinance 54-101-25. So the way that we will structure this is we'll go through department presentations. At that time, we'll pause for questions from committee members and then other council members present, and then we'll go into any bond ordinance subject to your particular department at the end, and we'll transition to the next one from there. Committee members present are Councilmember Keegan, Councilmember Farrell, Councilmember Ballard, and myself. We are also joined by other Councilmember Conti. From our city staff, we have our city clerk, Shaniqua Jackson. We have our legislative aide, Brian Jimenez. We have our legislative director, Brian Jimenez. We have our legislative aide, Carly Johnson. I believe that is all we have this evening. Oh, and our research counsel, Robert Wenner. And our intern, Ariana Costella. And we are also joined by other council member, Tom Hoey. So large crowd this evening. Again, we will first start with Albany Water. So Commissioner, if you can join us up here. Oh, actually, before you take a seat, Mr. Coffey, can we actually start with our public comment for this evening? We have one public comment signed up. So at this time, Patrick Malowski, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. If you can join us here at the front. Yes, that's fine, yep. And when you get to the front, just make sure the mic's turned on and state your name and city where you live for the record.
Yes. My name is Patrick Malowski. I live here in the city of Albany at 16 Glen Street. My wife and I are the homeowners at 16 Glen Street here in the city. First off, just want to thank you so much for the investment in our street, Glen Street, this year. The road looks beautiful after the big construction project, completely redoing everything. I know a lot of my neighbors are grateful for their new water lines. And we know that there's a lot to do in the city, so it means the world that small little Glen Street that we've lived on for the last 3 years got the attention it did. It means the world to us as relatively newer homeowners. And thank you to Alec, Gary, and John in engineering who worked with us to keep the storm runoff water from coming into our driveway, which was happening with the old street, and it was turning into water in our basement and our yard. Since adding a berm to the end of our driveway, the yard in the basement, the flooding there has been much less since the project's finished and, dare I say, manageable. We love the city of Albany, my wife Alex and I, and we think our tax bill, while high, is very worth it. We see the value. And this morning, though, Alex and I left the house for the day, and there was a hole dug in our front yard. And we found out right there this morning from a friendly subcontractor worker that the city was putting a tree in our front yard. We don't want a tree in our front yard, and we would like it to be removed by the city. That's our request as homeowners. But on a larger scale, our experience this morning is not the way to make people feel involved in their community or feel like they have a say in their government. This morning, we didn't even have a say in our own front yard near our gas utility line. And while this may seem like a little thing with how many trees are going into the city, for us who have never owned more than one property in our years of owning a home, it means the world to us. We don't know what type of tree it is, how tall it will get, or how strong and deep the roots will be near that gas line. Turns out more than 7 trees were planted this morning on the street. No neighbors were talked to about this, at least the ones that we talked to who knew about it, didn't know about it. And we can only imagine the workloads that the city workers are tasked with planning all these details for a larger city like Albany. But if the city is going to do something so personal to people's yards like plant a tree, you have to find a way to involve the homeowners. Glen Street has a great community on it that cares for each other, the type of people you want involved in your city. But these are the types of moves that can make someone feel disconnected from their city for the rest of the time they live there. Please reconsider the way that the city goes about this process. Who knows, if we were involved from the start, maybe we would be thinking differently and we would be excited about this tree that's in our front yard. Thank you for the time. Alex and I are very grateful to live in the city that we do.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for your public comment. Okay, at this time, we will go into our Albany Water Department presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us. Are we ready to go?
Good evening, Commissioner. Thank you very much for joining us. Is your presentation up on the screen? Perfect. So whenever you're ready, and just make sure you're toggling with the computer in front of you.
Okay, thank you for inviting us here this evening. With me is Chris Powers. Chris is our Director of Fiscal Operations, the money guy. We have a lot of content in the PowerPoint slides, so I think you've had an opportunity, I think hopefully, to glance through those before the meeting. This is our mission statement. We've had this for several years, adopted by the Water Board. I think it kind of speaks for itself. We pride ourselves on what we do, and our capital plan, operation, everything we do is committed to the mission. And this is actually a mission statement that we are obligated and required to post on the Authority Public Budget Office website. This, I think, is the summary that we show every year. And the real issue of looking at this slide is, I think it just really shows the breadth of our mission. We're very regulatory driven for public health. And as you can imagine, looking at the assets that we're showing on this slide, we have a tremendous need for capital to maintain, repair, and update, replace our aging infrastructure. And it also requires a pretty, what we think is a very talented staff dedicated to operate and maintain a challenging infrastructure system. And we had a couple pages of highlights. Certainly I'm not going to go over each of those, but I think what we're looking at that is showing the examples of a lot of our regulatory projects that we've completed that we think are worthy of highlighting. A couple of the things that we're showing there, certainly that Beaver Creek Clean River Satellite Treatment Facility, that's a signature project for us, one of the first in the nation. And you know, it has a little bit of challenges when you have the first of anything when you start it up. But again, the staff people we have operating that are doing very well. Just a couple of asides, the early operating data we have, which is how effective this is measuring the disinfection percentages we have. Ultimately, that goes into the river, and we're targeting E. coli and I'm probably going to, I know I would forget the other species that we're looking at, but we're really above the percent removals that we're targeting, and we're pretty excited about that being the first year of operation, still fine-tuning it. The second part of that was the community benefit element that we talked about, and that's the Lincoln Park Learning Garden. We're a little bit behind schedule on that. We got a little bit of a late start, but I think as you drive by, it's beginning to shape up pretty well. We will probably delay the classroom building physical placement installation until next spring. We'd rather get it right than get it fast, and it's a little bit of delay in getting the pre-engineered building. But all the other pathways, the constructed wetland, the elements that are what I call passive recreation parkland, that will be done by the end of the year. The other issues here are certainly the EV charging station. We're about 80% target of our charging stations. I forget the number of electric vehicles we have now, but we're getting to the point that we're pretty close to having a full fleet for the electric vehicles that we think are necessary and efficient for our operation. Let me just see. And I think, again, the other thing is we've been talking about how technology can really advance and improve what we're looking at. There's a slide here about leak detection. And halfway through the slide, we used to do an acoustic detection. We would put monitors out overnight and then pick the equipment up the next day and put it on a computer to see if we were detecting any leaks on a couple, several blocks in the city. It worked well, but it was not very efficient. So this year we've spent, I don't know, Chris, maybe close to $75,000, $80,000 to put 600 leak detection sensors. We put them on hydrants, and we can then drive by and pick up the information and put it on a computer. We detected 75 leaks already this year, where on our acoustic, we may have picked up, 10% of that. So it's been highly effective, highly efficient. We have 3,500 hydrants in the system. We think if we get detectors on probably 2,000 of those, that's going to cover leak detection for the whole system. And just an anecdote on how important that is. When I started working as a commissioner in the water department in 2014, we were putting about 7 billion gallons a year, producing 7 billion gallons a year of water through our filter plant. And now we're about just over 6.1 billion. So that's 900 million gallons of water that is no longer getting produced by the plant. It's probably wasted that we picked up in leaks. And of course, the Lincoln Park pool at 500,000 gallons a day, not wasting any more. That's been helping quite a bit as well. One of the other things too, it kind of slides under the radar, it's the last bullet, is the separate stormwater system. This is catch basin cleaning facility audits. The city has a speedies permit for their stormwater system, and we actually administer that MS4 permit for the city, the water department does. And we work with DGS, as we know, we keep statistics that they provide us for street cleaning and things of that nature. So that's all part of the permit requirements that we're obligated to report to the state. Let's see if I have anything else there. One of the things too, it was on the previous slide, is cybersecurity. That obviously is a major concern that everybody has now. There's been a lot of hacking into water systems nationwide, where people have been able to alter the chemical feeds into the different systems. We have been working with the Department of Homeland Security, EPA, the Health Department, New York State Homeland Security. We've got a pretty good system. And now we've also been working with Dan Shine, the city's new information technology officer, who's very helpful working with our folks to ensure that we maintain that cybersecurity protection in the system. The next couple slides are just more of an information. We actually share this with our board, and I guess I'd focus more on the graph on the right. This is the water production we have year to date, and you can see the dip that we took in 2021. That is really COVID, and that was the effect of the offices closing, not really having people go to work for a while. And then we came back up a little bit in 2022. The drop in 2023 and 2024 is we had sales contracts with the town of Bethlehem and Guilderland that expired. So they dropped out a little bit, and then we see coming up this year we're recovering. We think this is the new normal. I think there's probably a hybrid work environment where offices are not fully occupied. We will see some organic growth in our water production simply because of the amount of development, the infill development with apartments downtown. And SUNY Nanotech, our largest customer, has probably increased by over 1.5 million gallons a day just in the last 7 or 8 years. So that's the organic growth. Next chart, whoop, I click on the trigger finger here. The next one, so the water production is our leading indicator. This is our lagging indicator. This is the actual, what we say, revenue, that's cash collections. We can kind of see how that dropped a little bit with COVID, and it's been on an ascension since then. And then the billing number is kind of the same thing. I can't explain the 2022, that's an anomaly to me. But again, the billings are important for us, and the collections are important for us because that drives two very important statistics we have. One is that we have to have positive cash, and two, as Chris will maybe get into a little bit later, we need to maintain a debt service coverage ratio of 1.15. And that's been dropping a little bit, but the takeaway that I look at here is we actually, it may be hard to see on the slide, but at the bottom of the billings, we show the rate increase from prior years, 2.5, 3.5. It dropped a little bit. In the last 2 years, we were up 10%. I think two things impacted that. One is COVID, when we lost a little bit of consumption and revenue from normal consumer, and then obviously the Bethlehem and Guilderland loss of sales contracts. That was about $2 million a year from Bethlehem that we have to make up. The takeaway here in hindsight, I started in 2014. We didn't have any rate increases, I think, for like 5 or 6 years. And in hindsight, I think the mistake I made there was not really suggesting to the board that we had even some nominal rate increase to reflect a CPI, some inflation at that point. That's a lesson learned that certainly will pass along. We may not have needed it necessarily for that particular year for cash or debt service ratio, but I think, you know, if we could have foreseen COVID, anything like that, I think we would have protected from having the larger increases that we showed in the last couple years. This is just a slide that we show. We're kind of proud of this one. We actually got a program called Get the Lead Out 3 years before EPA came out with their Get the Lead Out program. And one number that I look at here is the grants that the Water Board has provided. In the program to date, the Water Board's awarded 865 reimbursable grants to homeowners for $1.35 million. That's out of our operating budget, and that has helped homeowners take care of leaking lead services that had to get repaired and replaced. So we're continuing that program, and with some of the federal money we had, we hope to even increase the number of lead service replacements we're doing. We've been doing them now in concert with the city street repairing replacement program, pavement replacement, street repaving, and it's been working great. Thank you to Bill Aqui and the engineering staff working with Katie McKittrick in our department. We've got 2,100 plus lead services replacements to date from 2019. We've probably got about 7,000 or 8,000 left, but our goal is to keep getting them done. We're trying to get 1,000 a year done. Chris, you want to talk about, this is our current debt service and how this kind of fits in with budget?
Sure. Thanks, Joe. This slide here is a breakdown of our annual debt service payments, as it says in the heading. As you know, all of our capital projects are funded through some version of debt, whether it be grants or financing, preferably grants. But this breaks out, the schedule here is what the annual debt service is going to be. So we're going to have all of our operation expenses, and on top of that, for 2025, you'll see $4.863 million. That's both principal and interest. Our debt, once it becomes long-term, as we call it, it starts out as notes during the duration of the project, and at the end of the project, it converts to a long-term debt. That's a 30-year bond, amortized over 30 years, with typically 2 coupon payments throughout the year of principal and interest. So that's what this represents on an annual basis. We're coming up certainly on $5 million in 2025 and 2026, 27 out. It does an increase. You'll see it actually go down. We're paying off things we've been borrowing for many years. So you'll see debt will be dropping off. That'll be how it's decreasing, as you see in some of the out years. But again, it's also an estimate. We're not completely sure. You know, Joe and Bill Simcoe do their 5-year capital plan. We're not totally sure exactly what's going to get done in what time frame, so we have to make a good faith estimate, and that's what this is here. But it's it's a sizable number. It's something that is overall favorable. We have, if you look at our balance sheet, we have for 2024 almost $90 million in long-term debt. If you go to by the end of 25, when we do our audit, it'll be 100 and something. So relatively, this is the best debt you could possibly get. We borrow mainly through the EFC, the state agency of New York, and it's highly subsidized, sometimes free interest. Some of this is just principal. So that's an amazing thing I think for us, that ability to borrow with those favorable rates is an amazing thing for us to be able to do the capital projects that we have lined up, and it's reflected in these numbers. So overall, I think that's it, Joe. We can continue.
Yeah, I think the one thing too, Chris pointed out the kind of the favorable financing we get with EFC. We submit our projects to EFC's intended use plan, and we try to make sure those projects are going to score very highly. The higher up, the more points we get. Obviously, that puts us in a good position for some grants. Thanks to Bill Simcoe, in the last 5 or 6 years, we've got over $60 million in grants that offsets a lot of these capital costs. Without that, these numbers would be a lot higher. And we have projects like the Beaver Creek project, which is in an environmental justice area. Those projects also help. to get hardship financing, which is zero, zero interest. And we have subsidized financing, I think that's 50% for some of the other projects we have. So, we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us. We're going to show a slide later on that has our 5-year capital plan, and a lot of that's not going to get done unless we get grants or some kind of support to make happen. 2026 goals, we're kind of running, I'm happy where we are. We set up an operating structure in the water department kind of based on Jim Collins, good to great, Jim Collins, good to great. And there's a part of that where you kind of get on a flywheel. You are operating and you have things working in a fashion so you're almost on cruise control. It's self-sustaining momentum. We have an excellent leadership team, outstanding management staff, and great workers that we have in the water department. So at this point, we're trying to fine-tune some of the things that we think create issues for us. The one problem that we really have is we actually are now almost at full staff. We've got a couple openings, but we have a real space problem at 10 North Enterprise Drive. So we got to figure out how we can kind of put 6 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag, and that's really where we're at. So we have a team working on that. The one thing that Chris can allude to is the third bullet, the rate forecasting model with a 3 to 5 year look forward. It's a little difficult now because we're not exactly sure what's going to happen with EPA, with funding coming out that's going to support the revolving loan funds that the state uses for financing. There's a lot of uncertainty there. So Chris will work with our rate consultant and Bill Simcoe and our leadership team to look at what we can really build in and bake in. I'd like to look at, as we set rates up for next year, not just looking at next year, but looking at maybe a 2 or 3 year look ahead to try to get a more predictable rate forecast that we can share with our residents and customers. Again, I'm not going to go through each of these. There's a lot of goals in here. We've got a wide group of people, watershed management, filter plant guys, are all outstanding people. We're blessed to have and keep them. And these goals are achievable really because of the people that we have. I don't know, Gideon, did you want to mention anything on the operating budget we have here? I think the real takeaways is our budgeted expenses are not dramatically different than what we have this year. We got looking at maybe 4 FTE headcount increase. We're probably looking at strengthening what I call the cash register side of the business, which is the billing, the metering, the customer service side a little bit, working with Chris to have that go up a little bit. And you see the capital expenditures, that's kind of a forecast. They get done if we get money, so that's at some point, I think at some point in the future, we're not going to be able to get grants for everything. There's going to be, even if it's to complete the lead services program, everybody has the same problem. There's going to be some local dollars that are going to be required to have to manage and finance that program. So it's kind of a no-drama budget, actually, we think. And this is the 5-year capital plan. This is a Bill Simcoe. I think he has this memorized. But each one of these elements, every one of those elements on the left side, where we've got comprehensive plan for 2019, there's multiple projects that are in each of those. Some of those are like water main replacements. Some of those are at our filter plant. It's pretty comprehensive, and you can see every year it's 20 plus million the next 5 years. I think our 5-year capital plan for the last 5 years has been $120 million thereabouts. And again, the sources of those funds are, we for the most part, are grants and some of the helpful financing with EFC. I think that's it. That's all we had.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. I'm going to start first with questions and comments from committee members. Councilmember Keegan.
This year during budget, I'm like the first one to go every night. And you have a lot of line items on your budget, so I apologize. I'm going to have a lot of questions. My first sort of question, I feel like you kind of touched on it, but I just want to go back to the slide where you talk about the projected debt service payments. Does this include your projections for our costs for what we're bonding for this year? Or just the existing debt service that we have?
It's the existing debt service plus an estimate of what we also think is going to be incurred in the next year or so. And if we know a project's going to be done and the period that it's going to be completed, we'll make an estimate what that debt service is going to be. That's included in these numbers.
So as we go out longer, I would imagine beyond 5 years, it's not that accurate because we're going to have a new 5-year capital plan that has to be added to the estimates, correct?
That's
I just
true.
want to make sure
Yeah, it's,
my headspace is correct on that.
if someone came back and said you absolutely have to do that 5-year capital plan, these numbers would jump considerably. But as Joe said, there's some uncertainty to that, funding, things of that nature, where these projects, it's hard to determine when they're going to happen or how.
Part of what makes us select the projects, the 5-year capital plan is a comprehensive Dear Santa list. If everything was coming out, that's how we would like to accomplish the work. We try to triage the projects, if you will, by asset management, what is the risk of failure and the consequences of failure. That's how we try to do our internal scoring. And I think that's also the way EFC looks at it on an intended use plan that helps us potentially get some of that enhanced financing, which is typically what we look at, or some grant money. I think at this point, though, council member, it's really we're not sure what's going to come flowing out of Washington, and the state they're not sure either. I know there's been some discussion about trying to have, look if the governor in the Environmental Bond Act could put more money towards water main replacement, lead service replacement. I'm not sure where that's going yet either, but I think there's more of a flavor for that.
Okay, thank you. My second question really has to do with one of the proposed projects for my district. I know we've talked a couple times about the potential to put the vacant lot at the end of Sycamore, where Sycamore and Hackett intersect. There, I believe, is a large utility station there for National Grid, and it's sort of a hot spot in the area for trash and debris because it's been left unattended. We've talked in the past about adding that to the 5-year capital plan for potential rain garden, water capture.
We actually have active projects right now that are probably a little higher impact. Along Hackett Boulevard, we just completed a project for down behind Academy, and we're looking at doing some additional work where we have massive flooding down I think it's Crown Terrace area, Samaritan, Clara Barton, where we've got the water tends to pond, where DGS will have to barricade the road for us every rain bomb to prevent people from driving there. So we're looking at doing some work near Academy, kind of in off the paved area. I've always liked to, through some kind of a stormwater management in the median that goes from Sycamore Cardinal up towards St. Peter's, but the trees there are getting pretty established, and there's a pretty large gas main there too. So we think there's still opportunities to do more projects like Ramsey up in our ward, the 9th ward. But again, the rain gardens themselves are not difficult to do. We just got to get some separation in the street to bring it down to the rain garden. So we understand it. It's one of many.
We have also been very much wanting shade vegetation of some kind going along where that utility line is for many years. And there are also issues at Albany Academy where you have the basin, the existing AWD basin, because we have cars that park on top of that all the time whenever they have events, athletic events there.
Mm.
So,
and that's an area we're actually looking at doing some of the green infrastructure
well,
work
I
there.
would recommend if you're doing green infrastructure right in that area that you consider some kind of barrier as well to vehicles, because that is a significant issue. One of my favorite things to do in the fall and the spring is to call APD over to ticket cars. So I want to now kind of swing into the actual budget line items themselves, and I'm on, Gideon, for your reference, I'm on page 101. It looks like under administration, you're maintaining your staffing, but you're shifting some positions around. And that includes eliminating the position of senior accountant and creating a chief accountant position. Do we know what the purpose of that was?
Yeah, I think it's, frankly, provides a promotional opportunity for the number 2 person in the finance department. Outstanding individual. He is Chris's right-hand person, helps us prepare our financial statements. Our water board meetings are the 4th Friday of every month. Historically, we were fortunate to get them by the Friday before the meeting. Now we get them usually in the first 8 days of the month. So it's just been a tremendous, there's a lot more capacity, provides more bandwidth, and we want to retain this individual.
And then it looks like you're also eliminating the executive assistant position and then adding a program coordinator for special projects and a senior utility billing clerk.
The executive assistant and the program coordinator, that's the same position. Again, that's promotional. We, when I first started, we had a confidential assistant that attempted to support the water board, did some HR work, and it was just part of differentiation, if you will, in the department. So we no longer have a confidential assistant. We have an HR generalist, handles all of our payroll, chronos, workers' comp, strictly HR stuff. And we brought an executive assistant on to essentially dedicate to do all of the water board support works, the work that we're doing. We've learned over the past few years with Bill Semko that a lot of the grant work we have is the reimbursable stuff. It's a lot of work, a lot of paperwork. So this individual actually handles the reimbursement coordination with EFC and the water board secretarial work, and also has been doing some support work for me in the commissioner's office. So it's a pretty sophisticated position. It's a lot of bandwidth this person occupies, and that was our opportunity, again, to recognize that person and retain that person. That's how we keep on cruise control at this point.
And I'm assuming that those changes, despite maintaining staffing levels within that, accounts for the roughly, I don't know, 145,000 staffing differential for that particular component of the department, correct?
We added, well, you talked about a senior utility billing clerk. That's a new position. We generate a lot of bills, and we generate a lot of invoices. We have almost 24,000 accounts. It's getting complicated, getting sophisticated. We have, in some cases, had issues with how do we manage reads that we have no reads, high reads, funny data reads. We weren't really managing the billing process to my satisfaction. And I think it's our cash register. We need timely billings. We've had some months where the bills didn't go out till the 3rd week. They need to go out the 1st week. That's a cash flow issue. We've had a large accounts, OGS, some of the other ones which I won't get into necessarily the details, but the large accounts had significant errors in the billing. We had billing errors with our outside sales contracts were 6-digit, 6-figure billing errors. They need to get fixed. And that's been an issue for us for a long time. This year, we're creating that position to resolve that issue.
Thank you. And then going on to page 102 under equipment, and this is again associated with the administration component of your budget. There's a significant increase for furniture and fixtures by about 80,000. Do we know why that was proposed?
Well, I think part of that, we're trying to put actually office cubicles to provide quality work area. We've got 8 or 9 engineers that were trying to cram in one office that was just common space, no separation between them. A lot of it is just modular furniture.
Okay.
And 2 of the engineering offices, I think that's where primarily that's where the majority of it is.
Okay. I also wanted to ask, so you reduced your budget for contractual expenditures, including contracted services. Is that just based on this year's actuals, Gideon?
Yeah, as you can see in '24, we expended about $260,000, and what did you guys do in admin this year that's bumped up?
What goes into contracted services and admin, do you know off the top of your head?
Just a lot of general IT type contracts, anything that's sort of company-wide would fall under the administration contracts.
We have
things like
SCADA, Azure work that we do with our SCADA systems. That's probably where most of that is from an investment. And we have some engagement with the city for management of some of that work, but then we pay a lot of that through our own budget.
And then you proposed a 70,000 increase for training and conferences. Is there something larger that you guys are anticipating participation in this year?
Well, some of the training is actually safety training where we're doing first aid CPR. We also do OSHA 40-hour, and a lot of that, where if it's company, department-wide, it goes into administration.
Okay.
So, and I think frankly, as a public utility, one of the few things we can do to compete with the private sector is provide opportunities for training and professional development.
And I'm looking at the wrong line. I meant postage. You had a 70,000 increase in postage. We know what that was. Sorry, my bad.
To be honest, we are required to do compliance, lead and copper compliance sampling twice a year. And if we have a sample median number, the 90% number, if it's over 15 parts per billion, we have to write a letter, a notice to every 22,000 customers in the city with explaining what they need to do if we have high lead. And that is not an inexpensive proposition.
Previously, we never budgeted for these one-off mailings that happen throughout the year, 2 or 3 of them that are 15,000 apiece. And this year we decided to actually provide for it.
Okay. And then I want to move on to page 103. I believe this is your sewer maintenance portion of the budget. You are proposing to increase staffing there by 2 people. And it looks like you're creating a maintenance mechanic position and an assistant operation manager position.
We expect, right now we have 2 operations managers, one for sewer and one for water. The water operations manager is going to retire in the first quarter of the year. So the sewer operations manager is going to be operations manager for the whole department. We need to backfill some support for that with an assistant operations manager in sewer, and there'll be 1 assistant operations manager in water. The other position for a maintenance mechanic will be assigned to the Beaver Creek facility. We've learned that that system is big, and it's got a lot of moving parts there, and we need a mechanic down there to really help us. It's got mechanical screens. Every time we have a rain, like this rain event, we'll be working there straight, probably from this morning till tomorrow afternoon, with the 2 operators. Every so often, like during these rain events, the screens have to be washed down, and we've got to do other maintenance in the facility to keep it working. That's probably something we didn't anticipate when that system was designed. We thought we could handle it with a labor. It's got special skill sets. We need a maintenance mechanic, very similar to the mechanic we have at our water treatment plant.
And will that be a bargaining unit position?
I think this one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to jump down under contractual expenditures. I noticed there's a planned $1 million increase to contracted services, specifically under sewer. Do we know what that's related to?
Most of the contracted services in sewer, and we have a water main break. Usually 90% of the main breaks we can handle with our own staff. The sewers are a different situation. The sewers are deeper. They're different construction. We don't have excavators, we have backhoes. So normally if we have a major sewer repair, we've got to replace 100 so many feet of pipe, and it's deep. We have our standby contractor, because then that's Keller. They do that work for us. And that's pretty much what that number reflects. They will also do some water work, but the contracted work in sewer is primarily Keller. Sometimes we'll have to get an outside vendor to do camera work if the diameter of the sewers that we're cameraing is over a certain amount, the specialized camera equipment.
So is that $1 million differentiation related to what our actual expenses are really looking like?
Well, no, I mean, as you can see, we spent $3.7 million in '24, and in '25, you know, we've moved appropriation out of that line, originally budgeting 2.8 million down to 2.2. I mean, as the commissioner mentioned, this is really like when stuff breaks. We had less stuff break in '25 than we originally thought, or on average, so to speak. So we're really just returning the budget to the average amount of stuff that breaks each year.
Just as an example, I know you probably remember when we had the perfect storm disaster on Elberon Place and Lake Avenue. That repair alone was probably $3 million. And that was the same year we had a sinkhole on Madison Avenue in Scotland. And those two together were probably $4 million.
Okay. Moving on to page 104. Under the pumping stations, I just had a question again. There was a significant swing in what we're planning for contracted services there. Is that based on this year's actuals? That changed from 500,000 to 300,000?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, and I think, again, the pump, that includes our floatables. We built those floatable stations at Orange, Livingston, and Jackson. We kind of classify them under the pumping stations. So we got more equipment there as well, but that's, I think, our best guess.
And then on that same page, under sewer costs, that 8189 section, we increased contracted services by 720,000.
That's our expected bill from the Albany County Water Purification District.
Okay.
That's going up dramatically. And in fact, that's one of the largest uncertainties we have moving forward. They're looking at a capital project that's in $100+ million for improvements to the north and south plants. We pay over 50% of their capital projects, so we expect that number to go up quite substantially in the next few years.
Okay, thank you. It's helpful to know. On page 105, under source of supply power, it looks like you're also proposing a change in staffing from 23 to 24. It looks like you're adding reservoir patrol guards by 1.
Yeah, we're understaffed right now, actually by 1 position, so they've got almost baked in overtime. That is a ridiculously high number. Frankly, we have trouble filling some of those positions because they're remote. They're at Alcove Reservoir, and we have problems with like a midnight to 8 shift. They're tough to fill. So we are moving to fill that position. We're going to budget for it anyway.
And are those bargaining unit staff as well?
Yeah, all of them are.
Okay. And then again, under that same category, when you look at contractual expenditures, there are some changes around, for example, supplies and materials. You significantly reduced expectation. It went from 179 to 50,000. In this area of the budget, it looks like you're planning to spend almost 230,000 less than you did last year. Is that just based upon 2025 actuals?
It is based upon that. It's also based upon when we're submitting our invoices for approval through audit through City Hall. There are some discrepancies of what should be in equipment and what should be in supplies. And it turns out that we probably should be putting more things into equipment, depreciable items, things of that nature. Supplies should be a smaller dollar figure and a smaller amount. So we try to reflect that, and also the actual activity that remember we do this budget pretty early. I think we had results through June, July. So we reflect that with what actually happened in the prior year and make a guess.
Okay. And again, I apologize. You guys have a very long budget. Under purification, you plan on adding a utility mechanic position. So you're going from 29 to 30 FTEs.
We do. We actually made an effort to try to make a maintenance mechanic that was a non-union white collar. We got a little bit of a grievance from that, and we said, you know, let's just add a regular blue-collar mechanic. Although we were looking for someone that perhaps had some additional skill sets, we need someone to help us do the work. So we're going to go back and just add another maintenance mechanic blue-collar position.
So that is another bargaining unit position? Okay.
Mhm.
And my other question for you, Gideon, is I'm noticing, despite the fact that we're sort of adding some salary positions, I don't see a big swing in our anticipated salary. Do we have an outstanding contract with them?
Yeah, I mean, the AFSCME contract expired at the end of '24, and we are currently in negotiations with that unit.
So we might see some adjustments to anticipated salary, both for AWD and DGS as a result?
Yes, should
If
the
those
should the
contracts settle.
contract settle, the employees would need to be adjusted to the new rates, yes, of course.
Okay. It was just something I happened to notice when I was looking through the budget. So I'm assuming then when I see the differentiation in equipment under this category, that may be why accounting for the change in the salary totals are the contracted services totals previously. And then
Yep.
under contractual expenditures, there's a planned $500,000 reduction in the use of chemicals over there. Do we know why that is? If you look down under section 40, contractual expenditures, line 7416, chemicals, it went from 1.7 million to 1.2 million.
That's not the plan.
What did we take out?
Well, I know part,
Yeah, that's just, you know, when we submit these budgets to our individual department heads, and they come back based upon, you know, not only what have we spent before and what happened in the prior year and the 6 months up until we're doing the budget, but what they anticipate cost-wise, what they anticipate need-wise, based on capital projects going on, things of that nature. So that number, I think, specifically came from our department head.
Okay.
I think they've got a really good read on the chemical use at the water plant. We're actually going from powder lime to liquid lime. There's some little nuances in
Yeah.
that. And frankly, what we thought were going to be high chemical costs because of things that were going on in supply chain. Remember, we had some supply chain issues in early 24. They have not borne fruit, so I think we're getting the benefit of that.
And then moving on to page 107, under your transmission and distribution, it appears that you're eliminating one position, an auto mechanic.
We have, yes, one auto mechanic position, because we have licensed auto inspectors, that has a little more juice for us, and we have a mechanic helper, I think, that we kept in the budget, so that satisfies our staffing requirement in the garage.
Okay. And then under equipment, there was a significant swing in your planned or anticipated expenditures for vehicles. Went from roughly 1.9 million to a little less than 300,000. Is that just based upon we don't need to purchase vehicles this year?
Now, well, what happened for fiscal year '25, we had what I call an incredible catch-up. We spent almost $1.67 million on catching up our fleet from basically not having done that in the previous year, the year before. So that was a bit of an anomaly where we caught ourselves up and did for this year. We expect a much less capital spend, given that we did the majority of it in 2025 for 26.
Okay, thank you. And again, when you go down to contractual expenditures, there's one sort of big shift under contracted services by about 300,000. That's line 7440. Do we know why we're anticipating that increase? Or is it based upon actualized expenses?
That's Keller work, right?
Yeah, it's going to be based upon actual, a combination of telework and actualized expenses through 25.
Okay, thank you. And again, I apologize because you have so many line items. On page 108, under board and authority, it looks like the fees and services are almost doubling. Do we know why that is?
Board and authority.
Yeah, typically, when we recognize we're having more capital expenditures, more bond issuances, there's always going to be excess fees related to a bond issuance. So we know certain things are going to go long. We anticipated, I call long, become a bond in 2026. So we estimated that, and on top of what the professional fees, the lawyers, the actual fiscal advisors, it adds up. So it was an estimate.
Fee on that we can't make money on the interest, right?
Right, yeah. So
I forget what they call that.
yeah, there's an also,
Arbitrage.
there's an arbitrage piece of that where, where we actually have money, we park money that doesn't earn interest, but we're not allowed to make money on that given that we're not for profit. We have to return that money to the IRS. So that's a piece of that as well.
That's a
and
big
increased
piece of
fees, and increased fees there.
Okay, those are all the questions that I have. Thank you again for making the time to speak with us this evening. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Farrell.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming in, and just a reminder of the folks coming home, the water department is actually a separate authority, so they go through their own budget process with their own board, and that's the real oversight. They are just here as really a kindness, which I very much appreciate, because obviously water is incredibly important to all of our constituents, and this is a great opportunity for us to kind of learn more about what's happening, which is particularly exciting with the lead service line replacements. So I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. So I know that you're trying to get 1,000 per year done, and I know that we have this information, but I know that I will be asked again, so I figure I would ask it again. You said 700,000 homes? That doesn't see, yeah, it was like, there can't be, we don't have that many people.
No, we've got 22,000 connections, probably 10,000 lead services. We've replaced 2,200 lead services plus since 2019. We have more to go. We've replaced 700 and some this year so far.
That's amazing. And then for anyone that is not having their, or is testing their lead levels and is concerned and don't know if they're slated or not, there's still the lead service line replacement grant program, which is $2,000 for the full lead service line replacement?
2,000 for the full, 1,000 for a half replacement, yes.
Okay.
And what I didn't mention is that we are also required regulatory to have a published on our website a lead service inventory. So every property, you can go on our website, every property has an identified from the main to the meter, or from the main to the shut-off to the meter, if it's lead, if it's copper, or if it's unknown. So we're obligated to publish that continuously. We update it every week, and there's still a lot of unknowns. So we're potholing. We'll use some AI algorithms to help us predict where we've got a good sense of where we have copper. We can assume that that whole area is likely going to be copper. So we're in the middle of that right now. We've got, in fact, a $2 million grant to help complete the lead service inventory.
And for anybody that's listening at home, you can actually go on and see if your home has lead, not, or if it's unknown. And there's also instructions to test the lead
Right.
service line, which definitely recommend everybody do.
And if you're uncertain, you can call the water department. Our meter folks will go up, happy to take a look and help you make that determination.
That's great, thank you. And I will say, Katie was absolutely spectacular. We had an amazing experience as far as one can getting go through my street and my ward. So we really appreciate how efficient everyone was. We had a whole bunch of meetings. Katie came to every single one of them, asked every question that could be asked. We had people asking questions all over the place. Everybody from the water department and engineering, just to give engineering props as well, was absolutely spectacular through the whole thing and really clearly cared about getting this done, which just matters. So thank you so much. And I know I gave this plug last year because I think it was a little over a year ago that I took the whole tour of the water source and the business. It was amazing. I highly recommend, if anybody has the opportunity to do that, to do it. It is, it's amazing what goes into our water, but it's also, we're very lucky that people made an investment in our water over 100 years ago. We're in a much better place than a lot of other municipalities, and we're also incredibly fortunate that we have the people from the water department, including all of you, continuing to move forward and continuing to really look ahead. So one does not usually like paying bills, but I will say I love my water department bill. It is one of my favorite bills, and because we get a lot from it. And so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to ask about fluoridation because I want to allow my colleague, Tom Hoey, to ask about it ahead of time, but I look forward to that. Thank you.
No questions? Okay. One question for you all. So you had mentioned that your water production decreased in 2022 due to the break of contracts with other municipalities, including Bethlehem, et cetera. And then one of your goals for 2026 is to explore new intermunicipal sales and wholesale water sales. Any additional information you can share around partnerships or potential sales there with the surrounding areas that might come to play soon?
Well, we are still talking, we still have a contract with Guilderland that's pretty static. We are negotiating one with Bethlehem that had a contract before.
Okay.
We're in the middle of negotiating that now. I think we're going to wind up with something with that, I'm thinking, pretty soon.
Yeah.
We have another municipality that we're talking with, but it's too early to get into any details on that.
Mm-hmm. And the wholesale water sales, are those to companies, or how does that work?
I'm sorry?
The wholesale water sales?
Well, there are some opportunities where you can get a private vendor that wants to buy water in bulk. We haven't really spent a lot of time looking at that. There was a lot of people say, why don't you bottle water and things of that nature. It's kind of contrary to what we're talking about from a sustainability. We're talking about drinking tap water. Any bottling effort seems inconsistent with that mission. So I think that's kind of not a pie in the sky, that's an outlier that we'd like to look at, but I think that has a low probability at this point.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Additional questions from council members? Councilmember Hoey.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Joe. And I was going to ask you about the fluoride because I think it's going to be hopefully in by the end of the year, and we're not looking at it next year, but you know.
Well, I think where we are right now, Councilman, is that we're proceeding with construction. We've got bulk storage tanks that have to get certified. We'll be pretty well done by the end of the year. We will have to get a health department certification of completed works. That takes a little bit. My sense is we'll probably be looking at it in January, but we're pretty close to being on tap by the end of the year.
And thank you for doing that. And, you know, it is a very controversial issue, as you know. But I think we're doing the right thing. We've invested, as Councilmember Jenny said, that we've invested 100 years ago in this water system, and it is, I believe, a state-of-the-art in the way it's designed with free flow. We don't need pumps, I mean, for the most part, from the reservoir. One of the things, you know, you brought up about 10 Enterprise. You know, I would like to see long-term, not this year or next year, but that, you know, as the water department grows, that we have a plan in place. I've been in the building. It is getting old. You know, it'd be nice. I brought this up with the fire department. At some point, You know, having historic-looking buildings, fine, but for technology and stuff, we need to kind of move forward. So I'm hoping that in the long run that we start looking at stuff like, you know, rebuilding or putting a new building in or.
Tom, I think when you look at, what we look at, we're the administration. 10 North Enterprise is where we sit. When you go down and you look at the water filter plant in Fierbush, we put a tremendous amount of dollars into that facility. I encourage you, if you get a chance, to please visit that facility. It's been modernized. The technology down here that is state of the art. You look at the Beaver Creek facility, that is something that we operate. That is state of the art. So I guess, you know, sitting in the office, we can paint the walls a little bit, but we're really more concerned about space. We're actually in a pretty decent location. The problem that we have as a mission-critical infrastructure, we're in a 100-year floodplain, and if a train's going by down Erie Boulevard, how the hell do you cross the road to get over the street? So little challenges like that, but we're making investments where we think they need to be based on the risk and the importance, consequences.
Yeah, I know you put up new buildings on the filtration on the state campus. You're right on top with the technology there, but I worry about our people, and I'm just, you know, it's the people that make the water flow in my mind, so.
And that's where I think we made a lot of improvements in the building with the furnishings, et cetera, to work on retention. And frankly, the pace study that the city has done, that's made it very helpful for us on a retention basis. You can't believe how important that's been to have competitive salaries. The residency expansion has helped as well in increasing the pool of applicants. We now actually have a fully staffed engineering department for the first time since I've been here.
That's great. I just got a couple more comments. You know, I had reached out to Pat Fahey when she was Assemblywoman about Woodville and the Crumbkill. I am concerned about, with the state campus, and one of the things, we are going to see more increases with water use with the Wadsworth Labs. You know, we're looking at 4 or 5 years down the road, but at some point, that's going to be like a state-of-the-art facility, sort of like the nanotech under New York creates, where they're using tremendous amount of water. But I am concerned about the sewer, and, you know, I've explored it. As you know, I've talked to you and Bill Simcoe. Most of the state campus water flows up near the Guilderland border, comes out into the Crumbkill, and I know you had sent one of your engineers to look at it. I was kind of concerned about Woodville. You know, the road itself is falling into the Crumbkill, and I'd like to I'll touch base again with Senator Fahey and see if there's some kind of grants that we can get for you guys, because it's not just the city of Albany. This is, you know, North Bethlehem, Guilderland. The Crumbkill flows. It doesn't care what city it's in. The water's going to go. But I am concerned about that. We had beavers build some dams and flood some neighbors. So whatever I can do, or, you know, long term, that maybe we should look at with that type of you know, storm system.
We have an arrangement with a consultant right now to look at the Crumbkill trunk sewer and things that we can do along that corridor. We have to provide a little more access to the Crumbkill trunk sewer. But on the campus, as you know, the Harriman campus pump station we built was to actually take some of the wastewater flow from the Harriman campus, get it out of Beaver Creek, and send it over towards Colvin Avenue down to the North Plant.
Yeah,
So
you told me. Yep.
I think that helps everyone in the long term. But we are sensitive to the Crumbkill issue.
Well, thank you, and thank you again. Albany water is the best water in the state, I believe, and I think most of the council members will agree. And thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? Well said by Councilmember Hoey. I do agree Albany has the best water in New York State, so thank you for your day-to-day activities and your leadership with your department. With that, we are all set and appreciate you coming out this evening.
Thank you.
At this time, we will transition to the Department of General Services.
Thanks.
Good evening, Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your patience for your presentation. I will send a special thank you for your patience to engineering in the back, who's up next. But without further ado, you can take away the presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. And visitors alike. Our core function, we have a, which one? Okay. Our core functions are street maintenance, which includes snow and plowing, plowing and salting, paving, sidewalks, and graffiti removal. Park maintenance includes mowing, weeding, gardening, forestry, and the golf course. Sanitation and recycling, of course, trash collection, recycling collections, leaves and organic collections, bulky items and appliance collection, as well as the property maintenance, which we started a couple of years ago, which is a very successful program. Talks about illegal trash, goes into private property and cleans private property and bills the homeowners. Roadside mowing and maintenance, which is working very well with all of the entrances in the city of Albany. We're trying to focus on that. Recycling education, we've been very successful at receiving numerous grants. We're very aggressive with our grants application in the recycling education and also in our forestry department. Household waste drop-off events, anybody that's been at those hazardous waste collections are excellent. Shredding collection as well. We just started a couple of years ago the organic compost facility and an organic program. Food waste recovery. We also started a waste reduction program and a waste diversion program, which is just started, and it's been very, very successful. Other responsibility, obviously, our capital improvements, fleet maintenance, Rock Road landfill. Our highlights, we ensured continuing delivery of essential city services, including solid waste and recycling collection. Continue with our dedicated urban blight crew, to conduct sweeps and special projects to combat urban blight. We have continued to streamline operation through innovation and automation, aiming at improving the quality of life of our city residents. We completed improvements to the 5 city dog parks, to very good accolades from the dog moms and pops. Started several park infrastructure and amenities upgrades in several parks, which includes new benches, new paths for access to all. Upgrade including, but we're not limited to fences, walking paths, park benches, ADA, clinic, picnic tables, bike racks, and trash cans. Completed a citywide street litter basket survey inventory, which is gonna catapult into our collection system being looked at as far as street baskets. And now I am turning over to my deputy commissioner, who is in charge of budget and operating budget for the department. Thank you.
Okay, so this is pretty basic, not a lot of changes. It talks about 2 positions, one of which was approved by the council 4 months ago. It was a mid-year. And the other one is a position to add another litter basket. A litter basket collection, all right? On the nights when we collect litter baskets, we have 2 crews currently, we're gonna add a 3rd. So that's what that is. Otherwise, everything pretty much is the same.
You know, looking at the trash collection fee, you know, I discussed this in my original budget presentation a few weeks ago. You know, there is a proposal included in this budget to increase the trash collection fee from $90 per housing unit to $180. You know, the legislation around the collection fee, you know, states for it to cover the cost of collection. As you can see, the cost of collection have increased pretty dramatically over the past 8 years since the current structure of the fee was in place. You know, a lot of this is the cost of recycling. Probably when we go back to the beginning of this period in 19 or so, you know, recycling either made money for the city or was a net zero. You know, the revenue generated from selling the commodities basically covered the cost of processing. You know, in our 2026 budget, we're including $500,000 to dispose of recyclables. And, you know, that's really driving a lot of that cost there, as well as increased labor costs and general inflation that we've had through this post-COVID period. You know, obviously that is a significant increase to the fee, but looking at what private trash haulers charge in other municipalities, you know, around Albany County, you know, the standard is around $40 to $50 per month. You know, the city will still be providing that service to all its residents for approximately $15 a month.
Okay, so our goals moving forward in '26, we're going to continue to install our public bathrooms in selected parks, the self-cleaning bathrooms that we've got one bathroom now installed at Black Lives Matter Park. We're going to continue to look to install more. Street litter basket inventory that was completed this year will help us develop a plan to ensure that the correct amount of cans are located in every neighborhood in the city. We will definitely be adding cans. And we'll be looking to streamline that a little bit better. Completed inventory of all city parks. It's pretty much done now, but we've got to do some final touches. So include the condition of the amenities, the walking paths, the play structures, furniture, and then the other park items, so that we know kind of what we need and have a plan moving forward for replacement, not waiting till something breaks, but actually on a cycle. Continue the second year of a 4-year program to replace park benches, ADA, picnic tables, bike racks. Again, the bullet before with the inventory will help us figure out what we need to do, and we're doing that and going through. Continue year 2 of a 3-year citywide street pruning project. This is the first of its kind in the city of Albany. That is part of a federal grant that we got, the money is still coming in. We're going to expand the food waste composting program with new initiatives to increase participation and cooperation. We've made a couple of announcements already about smart bins that will be placed throughout, you know, in certain locations in the city, and a few other ways that we can do programs that we can get people to food compost more, which will then ultimately divert waste from the landfill. Expand our reuse and donation efforts by engaging the public. Again, we did the Drop It, Swap It program this year was extremely successful, where people want more of this. It provides a service. People in need gets items, and ultimately we're reducing the amount of waste going into the landfill. Capital budget. Do you want me to do this, Gideon, or do you? Okay. So pretty self-explanatory. A couple of these things are things that we are in almost every year as a result, like the streetscape and park fixtures, that is the park benches and things of that nature, streets and sidewalk resurfacing. So the reason that might look a little different than in years past is that engineering was part of DGS for many, many years, and it's not anymore. So we do a couple of programs within DGS that need to be funded, including the PPSD program that we do. And then there is some sidewalk ADA ramps that we will replace, as well as some overlays and things of that nature that are done, some small projects that are brought to our attention by council members and neighborhood groups that we need to fix that are too small for engineering to do a large project. So that covers that. Richfield Park, we decided that we were going to put one of the self-cleaning bathrooms there, but we decided that there's a beautiful pavilion there that engineering replaced the roof on just a few years ago. So we're going to look to take the bathroom that's in that building and retrofit that building and put the bathroom, rehabilitate the bathroom that's there, make it a little larger. There's an old concession stand that's not used, hasn't been used in well over a decade. And so we're going to look to do that. Storage structures are sheds and outer buildings throughout the department and the city that need to get used. Citywide irrigation. So this is something that's new this year. You know, gardens throughout the city, we've got a lot of them, but they rely on a staffer to go out and water. and that's becoming difficult. It's difficult to find people. You have to have the water truck. Anywhere that we can irrigate and put sprinkler systems in, it is very helpful. This has happened in the past. I will tell you, in my 28 years with the department, we've done it. But there's been some neglect that hasn't happened. So we're going to start a program where we're going to irrigate as much as we possibly can. And that way we can ensure the amount of watering is done, and we're going to save the asset that we have of these flowers, which is a cost. Security fences, this covers all the fences that we talk about, and that the parks, we want the goal for parks to a lot of the parks, the fences are old. They need to be replaced. So this provides a funding source for that. And then the bathrooms, as we talked about, we're going to put more bathrooms in, $500,000 for bathrooms to put more bathrooms in the parks. The last thing I think is the Capitol Hills rehabilitation improvements, and this is for just various upgrades and things that need to be done at the golf course to keep that moving. And I think that's it. Okay, questions? There we go.
Apologies, Deputy Commissioner, did you cover the Hudson River gateways?
Yeah, that's bringing in $400,000 in state aid for, designing the beautification of the two gateways. And I think, most of the construction for that, I think we'll see additional state aid from some of the downtown revitalization pot that is available from the state.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation this evening. We'll turn to committee members first for questioning, and we'll go to Councilmember Ballerin.
Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you for being here today. I do appreciate that. I guess like the bathrooms in the park, how much are they? Is it 500,000?
No, that would be for several. Okay, so they run anywhere between 350 and 400. At least the first one. That's what the first one. It's all going to depend on the infrastructure that's there, what we have to do to the park to make it work. Whether there's electrical nearby, there's things that needed to be done. Black Lives Matter was our first test. It went well, but it cost us about $425,000, I believe. So they could be as close to 500, but they shouldn't be that high.
And how many more are we looking to put in this year?
Well, we're hoping to do 2 to 3. So there's 500,000 in this year's budget, and there's still some money in the 25 capital plan that we didn't use yet, because we really were trying to get all the kinks out of the current one that we have before we move forward. It's the responsible thing to do for taxpayers' money, to make sure that what we're purchasing is the right thing. So we knew this was going to be great, but we needed to prove that it was great. So that's one of the reasons why, we didn't spend that money in 25, but we're going to do that.
And what parks are we looking at to possibly?
I don't think we know yet. We've got a bunch of locations, and again, that inventory is going to tell us something too. We have to obviously make sure that we're doing this. There's only one at this point. So, we've got a couple of ideas, but we don't have anything set yet.
And do we have any data of how it's used, the bathroom, how often? Is it 24
Yes,
hours?
as a matter of fact, we're running that data now. The bathrooms are going to be closed like we do yearly and winterized November 15th. I took a quick look at the data that was given to us by the automation. About 1,600 people used it. Again, that's preliminary data until we close the bathroom, and then we'll run up all the tabs.
Okay. Thank you. So I guess my next couple of questions are for Gideon. The main one is, I'm seeing a lot of salaries that are staying the same in DGS. So do we have any progress in some of these union contracts?
Well, we're currently settled with all 11 unionized groups, with the exception of AFSCME. And then we have a couple additional groups that will be out of contract as of the first of the year. That's Teamsters and operating engineers. So you'll see that those units' salaries are shown in the book flat. We're in negotiations with them, all three of those groups currently, and, we'll be moving forward with that process.
Is that, so I guess and I know you have made a lot of progress, and I know you've made a lot of progress and a lot of work on these efforts, and I know we're transitioning from one mayor to another mayor. I'm assuming we're not gonna have these contracts done before the end of the year. Am I wrong to assume that, or is there work being done that we're not aware of?
Yeah, I would say that's probably unlikely at this point with, Thanksgiving, Christmas, this time of year becomes difficult to get the many parties that are required together.
The operating engineers and the operating engineer and the Teamsters don't expire to December 31st of this year. We started negotiation.
Okay. Okay, so with that said, I guess I'm gonna go into my trash fee rant. Because I've gotten a lot of calls from my residents, my neighbors about the increase in the fee, and the biggest pushback that I'm getting is that we're doubling it. We're going 100% increase, and it brings in. We're looking at bringing in an additional 2.3 million with that doubling. So I guess I'm gonna ask Gideon. You know our budget. You know our budget well. You know our fund balance. You know all of our resources. Is there any numbers we can work on to make it so that maybe we do a scale, where we scale it, where we do a third this year, or and a third next year, and a third the following year, so that it's not such a huge impact on our neighbors, because we're doing a 3% increase, and I think most of us agree that's just where we are right now. It's just where we are. But to do that plus the doubling of the fee it's hard for some of our neighbors and our residents. So is there any way to look at this holistically and see what can we do to get ourselves closer to it? That would mean we'd have to find, I know it's not an easy task, if we did a 1/3 versus a 100% increase, if we increased it by 30%, 33%, we'd have to find roughly 1.55. So I know it's not an easy task, and it is DGS, but it's kind of separate from DGS, because DGS has the operation budget. I'm looking at this as a holistic versus just one specific department. So that, I'm leaving you a heavy question. That's a heavy one, I know.
Looking at, the $2.4 million that in increased revenue, if you're cutting it into thirds, obviously, you're looking at $800,000 per third. So what you're sort of suggesting is to take $1.6 million out of the budget. I mean, if that's the will of the council, we're going to either have to raise revenues in another area or find expenditure cuts of $1.6 million. I mean, I'm not sure we can provide current service levels with $1.6 million less in resources.
Well, I'm putting it out there because I know we've been creative in the past in finding new revenues and finding savings that we're not aware of as part of this process. And I think if we can have those conversations to try to lessen the blow on people. Yeah. And there's two things. I mean, we did the reassessment, and 50% of our residents got a reduction, but 50% of our residents got an increase. And some of those received significant increases. So, you know, those people are just readjusting to a new escrow payment or new amounts they have to save every year to be able to make their monthly, or make their taxes, their school taxes and their city taxes. We're going with a 3%, which I think most people will agree it's necessary. I think there has been a lot of good work done to try to keep it as minimum as possible. But then I also see this double in this fee. And for those who own multiple units, it's even higher because it's doubled in all of those units. So I think one person at one of our meetings said that you own 3 units, like seeing a 15% increase in your total tax bill at one of our public hearing a week or 2 ago. So so I'm saying that because I want us to look at all of our options. And again, I understand there needs to be an increase, and I understand, and I apologize that I missed the first meeting. I had a family situation I had to take care of, I had to be at. So I would have brought this up then. But the only other time it seems appropriate is now, so that we could at least put it out there, because if we can find a way to scale it, one, it addresses the fact that yes, we should have been increasing it somewhat for the last 10 years, but 2, it softens the blow to our neighbors, at least this year, and as we do it little by little. I mean, am I going to enjoy having to see this go up every year? No. I mean, I think it's not something that's pleasant. Some people say just rip the Band-Aid off, but ripping that Band-Aid off hurts. And I think many of our residents would say that we've had a lot of pain in the last few years. So if there's any way to ease that pain, I want to put it out there.
Yeah, and I will say that, you know, any property where the property owner is receiving enhanced star or the, you know, low income or senior low income, you know, partial exemption, they are statutorily exempt from the collection fee in its entirety. So this increase isn't going to apply to, you know, any of those properties or individuals at all. So, you know, there is a sort of automatic protection in the statute for, you know, our lowest income residents.
And I appreciate that, because I actually forgot about that. So I do appreciate that information. But I am going to still urge that we continue the conversation on this to see if we can get creative. You've been, and I compliment you, because I know we've joked around that we've given you gray hair in many of these meetings over the last few years, but you've also been very good at finding ways to get some of our concerns addressed. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who would like to go next? Councilmember Keegan.
Thank you. And again, appreciate you folks being here this evening with us. I have some line item questions. I want to start on page 61, and my first questions really have to do with projected revenue. There's a $40,000 increase proposed for the golf cart and range. Is that based upon this year's actuals? Okay. And the reimbursements for DGS fuel, is that based on actuals?
Yep. That's the reimbursement from other entities that use our fuel island.
Okay. And then DEC forestry aid, is that guaranteed funding?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It's already been awarded, and it's already in the books.
Okay. And the USDA Forest Service aid, are we sure that we're going to get that? That's not,
Yes, we are, because there's a middleman, basically. It's American Forestry. And the money's already there. So we're
Okay.
getting it from this middle person. I don't know how to explain that, but it's a different organization. So yeah, we are getting paid.
okay. And then, you are adding 2 positions to Public Works. Are those both union?
As I said earlier, it was only one. The council approved one, which was an operations manager position. This one, the second one is adding another basket crew to
Okay.
collect. So as a result of the inventory for litter baskets, we're going to add more litter baskets, therefore we need another crew. So we have an uptown and a downtown, we're going to add a midtown. So it'll give us, so that's what that is.
That is a union position though, correct?
Yes, it is.
I keep asking these because AFSCME expressed some concerns about reliance on seasonal workers. In my review of the budget, it looked like AFSCME was actually between DGS and water making out a little bit with some more permanent additions to the workforce. I do, however, note that under Public Works, there's an anticipated increase in $500,000 in salary, and that doesn't seem to include contract settlement. Are those folks on a different contract?
No.
Sorry. This is on page 63. It goes from 7.5 million roughly to 8 million.
Yep.
So are they on a different contract that's been settled?
Are who on a
Do we know
different
where that
contract?
$500,000 came from? Because I wouldn't anticipate to see raises here. So most of these folks are AFSCME that I'm seeing.
I mean, we're looking at our personal services holistically, and, as you mentioned, the concern about seasonal workers and, wanting to make sure that we fill all these permanent positions before we, go to the seasonal workers.
Okay. And then there's a $50,000 change in equipment. Did that get shifted around someplace else, or is it based upon 2025 actuals? Under Public Works again?
Yeah.
Again, similar to what the water department said about things being in the proper lines, not equipment versus supplies. So sometimes you'll see that money moved from one to the other for that reason.
Okay. And then I want to look at contractual expenses. There's a significant shift downgrade, really, which is never a problem, but I just want to understand why we're trending that down. For supplies and materials, it goes from roughly almost 1.8 million to about 1.4.
Are you in 1492?
Under 40, line 74110, contractual expenses, page 63. Supplies and materials went from about 1.8 million to about 1.4 million.
Yeah. Okay, so that's salt, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had some contractual problems with the salt contract last year that's been well documented across the state that we don't anticipate them to occur a second time.
Okay. And then the differentiation in gasoline costs, is that just a reduction in fuel expenditures?
I think we have a few things going on. We've purchased not a lot, but we've been replacing vehicles with more, fuel efficient, and 2, hybrids. So we're seeing our consumption go down. And remember, when we were sort of looking at 25, we were looking at sort of that 23 and 24 massive increase in energy prices. So look, the 25 energy budget is too high. And, now that energy prices have kind of leveled off, we're doing that with the budget as well.
And then the change in motor vehicle expenses, I again, are those motor vehicle expenses, are those actual vehicle purchases, or are they,
No, that's,
Maintenance.
service, repairs,
Okay.
maintenance, rentals in some case.
and then I'm assuming the increase for tree services has to do with the trimming?
Yeah, I mean, that increase comes from both the state DEC and U.S. Forest Service aid. That's why you see such a big increase in there, going from a pretty large increase, obviously.
There's about a $800,000 difference between what we actually spent and the money that we got from
Okay,
It's reimbursable.
reimbursement.
Nothing comes in to spend. It's all reimbursable money.
so the tree trimming is
It's reimbursement.
coming through another line item as revenue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, there's an $800,000 difference, but that's because of the grants.
Okay. So the 800,000 in revenue, the two forestry lines that we saw, cancel out that particular line item in the budget. Thank you. Going on to page 64, under line 20, equipment, do we know why is that just, again, something that was shuffled around to a more appropriate line item? And I'm assuming that also accounts for the changes in contractual expenditures under this category. Are they being shuffled around elsewhere?
The changes in contracted services, I mean, that line's pretty much flat to trending on inflation.
Do we know what the processing fees in that line?
That's the recycling.
That's the
Okay.
recycling that he spoke about.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're spending on recycling with
Yeah.
county waste currently?
Yes.
Between the recycling and the electronics, yeah, that's
Okay.
just the
Recycling,
amount.
electronics, food waste,
Yeah, that's.
tires,
Yeah.
all of that. I mean, tires come out of a different line, but
Right.
sometimes they.
And then, again, I just want to ask, because I see a $200,000 increase with flat staffing, and I don't believe we've settled those contracts under the landfill. Do we know what that 200,000 expenditure is related to? If we go on to page 65, under the landfill, 1494. Or is that just related to seasonal?
No.
No.
No, I think we had some vacancies, as you can see, during 24 and 25, and I think that the landfill staff is at 100%
Yeah.
at this point, so that's probably about 2 positions being filled that, weren't a year ago.
Okay. And then, if we go all the way down to the landfill revenues, I just have a couple of questions. We're anticipating an increase in the sales for our methane. Is that because we have more capacity for methane, or was there a change in?
No, I mean, last year's budget was a little low. As you can see, we did about $770,000 in 2024. I think we anticipate the volume to be about the same. 2024 had the recognition of some upfront payments from the vendor, so the actual revenue generated from methane sales was about $600,000, which is reflected in the 26 budget.
We're currently operating only one machine, one engine. There's 4 engines available, and they've been having problems getting the other 3. And hopefully this year we'll get a second one going.
Okay. And then the landfill usage, other governments were anticipating $500,000 in increased, I'm assuming, tipping fees there?
Yes, the department has raised the tipping fees, and in an effort to slow down the amount of trash taken in the landfill and extend its life, you'll see, we're taking the municipal waste first. That's why you're seeing, with a flat quantity, so to speak, and increasing rates, you're seeing that increase in revenue, whereas the first line there, landfill usage charges, those are private haulers where we are moderating to reducing the amount of waste, raising the rates to keep that revenue essentially flat.
Okay. So we're not increasing capacity for tipping, we just changed
No,
the
we're,
rate?
we're reducing
Okay,
capacity.
okay. I think those are all my questions until we get to the bonds for you guys, so thank you so much again.
Thank you. Councilmember Farrell.
Hello. Thank you so much for all that you do and all your department does. I will say you guys are, especially during the pandemic, I just felt like your entire department was on the front line of everything and doing the things that really, I think we all really appreciated the work that your department does and could see it and see how much it impacted us during the pandemic. And it's something that I keep with me because you keep things clean and you take away the garbage that we create, and those are not easy jobs to do, and they can be very often dangerous. So I really appreciate the work of a lot of the people that work for you. Well, all the people that work for you. So I wanted to, I will say, and this is one of the things where my day job and my, this job overlap, because I deal a lot with solid waste and all of those good things. One of the things I do have a question for, you mentioned paying for electronics and tires. Those are supposed to be paid for by the manufacturers.
Yes, you're right.
So electronics, yes, now is. So when the product stewardship law was passed, 10 years ago, there was money to be made, and then too many CRT tubes flooded the market. There were many, like Bethlehem and Guilderland, that stopped collecting them. They would charge an exuberant amount to take them at their transfer station. But we continued to do it. We were paying roughly about $150,000 a year. We're back to a point where, because those are not, that they flooded the market and they're seeing a downtrend in that, we are now not paying for the processing of certain items, okay? But there's still collection that they have to do. If we were to hand it to them, perfectly palletized, like a Jenga set, everything was perfect, probably there'd be no cost. But we pay for the service of them coming and they palletize them and all. The state is not covering, there's no cost on that. The product stewardship law does not call for that, only the processing of it. So without the CRT tubes, and there's still some of those that we're still paying for, but not a lot. So we are seeing a downtrend where 2 years ago we weren't. So that is good. And tires have never, and in my 28 years in the city, have never been covered. And they're expensive. So
I want to tell you that it is New York State law that tire manufacturers are supposed to be taking back the tires and paying for the processing.
Yeah.
We pay a $2.50 fee
yes,
on
I know.
every single
I know.
tire for that.
We have inquired with DEC on that numerous times, and we were told there was nothing. So if you know of something, please pass it along, and we will, or tell us who to speak to. But I've spoken to numerous people in my years at DEC.
I wish I learned this last year, because we just redid, we had to redo the law in the last
please.
year. And,
please share it.
but I will, I might circle back with you on that. And the e-waste, because that's also, the manufacturers are supposed to be paying for that.
Right.
And that's been law for quite some time. So for municipalities to be having something where you're collecting it and we're outputting it, when we as consumers are expected that the manufacturers are taking care of it, and in fact we are paying fees on it, that's utterly ridiculous. That's a double hit to the consumer.
It's the labor is what they're telling us. The labor is what we're paying for, not the processing.
Still, I mean, it's something that if there was a site that a municipality has, I personally think the manufacturers should be at least chipping in for it.
Sure.
You know, I mean, that's something that you don't have to do that.
Right.
So that's something that, I might be circling back with you on.
Okay.
Please do.
I do have, so I agree with my colleague, Councilmember Ballerin, in terms of when we look at the overall budget, there's a lot of hits on our constituents, and especially right after the assessment. While yes, some taxes did go down, and my ward was one that Because I know if Troy was here, he'd be like, you had your ward, most of the people went down. But there's a lot of people where taxes did go dramatically up for. So that, the 3% tax increase and then, tax levy increase, sorry, Gideon. And then with the trash fee on top of that is definitely a lot. However, I will say unpopular opinion with my deep awareness of the state of landfills in New York State, where every single year there are more landfills closing and all of them will be closed in a very short time. And after that point, I can't even imagine what our trash is going to cost, because it's going to go up dramatically when our landfill closes and we have to truck it somewhere. But in another 5 years or so, it's gonna, God only knows on top of that, because we're gonna have to, I know on the West Coast, they just ship it overseas, which is horrible for the environment, just to note. But like, I don't mind the trash fee, and I don't mind the trash fee because I think it's something that we're going to see going up exponentially in very short order. And if we don't increase it sooner rather than later, it's just going to be a lot. But I will say, with several different hits, I do agree that something's got to give in there, and I know that you guys have nothing to do with most of these conversations, but just for the record, I am very concerned about what the stress that we're putting financially on our constituents, because it's not right to have all of these different areas where they're having a lot of stress and a lot of increases, especially at a time when inflation's going up, tariffs are hitting all sorts of things. I mean, you know, the holidays are going to look totally different. So this is a very difficult time to have this level of increase. Just saying all of those things for the record. And I'm curious, so do we have any concept of what the cost increases will be after the landfill closes? I mean, it's a tough thing to guess.
It's a little too early.
And I know that we're in the process of, we
Yes.
have consultants that
Yes.
will actually go through
Yes.
that. I know, I think Onondaga County, they did their landfill is closing at a similar time, and they just had consultants come through and with guesses on that. And I know one of the things that we're looking at is a recycling facility. So we would actually be able to separate and process our own recycling materials.
Not necessarily process, but
Well,
be
not
able to
process, but-
transfer. So,
Transfer, yeah.
for example, if there was a possibility to take it elsewhere besides Sierra Processing, which is the only game in town right now, we could, it could, again, be brought to the transfer station and then shipped somewhere else. Stage it until we can get it into a truck and then send it. Currently, right now, we're going from curb to MRF, right? We're going from curb, so that limits what you can do.
I ask that because there are a lot of municipalities that do separate out and then sell their own materials. And there are definite benefits with that. One of them is the quality of the material
absolutely.
is
Less contamination.
significantly better.
Yes.
Particularly with glass, which I will be asking more about in just a second. Glass goes from just basically worthless, something that you have to pay a lot to get rid of, because glass is the last thing when you have combined recycling. It is the very last thing, so all the crap is glass, and you can't actually use it. So glass is the most, it's infinitely recyclable, and it's as good the first time as it is the 100th time when you recycle it. It is a very unique material because of that, but only if you have separated glass. So have we considered, because there are some municipalities that actually have, like, not necessarily that they pick up glass separately, although some do, but they even have it at their facilities, so people that care about that kind of thing, like me, could actually bring their glass there, and then you can actually sell the material back, where glass is a valuable commodity when it is kept separate. Is that something that we've
No,
considered?
because, again, the MRF is a single-stream MRF, so everything goes commingled. And, I mean, if we were to have a location where that could be brought, but the residents aren't going to bring it to a location, we wouldn't be able to collect it separately at the curb. So it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, I'm not going to close the door completely that there isn't a possibility, but source separated glass in that respect, I just can't see it because the only MRF in town is a single stream MRF.
Yeah.
So
There are some municipalities that have separate glass, and they've had a lot of success with it.
In a lot of them, they're not doing curbside collection. They're being brought to a transfer station. Like Bethlehem, you can do that. They're making money on their paper and cardboard because they're bailing. Well, because you've got to bring it in and you've got to put it in a very certain spot. So there's no collection going on. So if you're collecting at the curb, it's got to be single stream. You could do dual stream, but then that's not going to separate your glass, And again, Zero Processing didn't want dual stream 15 years ago when they went to single. They wanted everything going single, so.
Right. And so if we did a recycling facility, would we consider doing separate stream again?
No, I mean, we wouldn't be doing any processing ourselves. We're not getting into that. What this is going to be is really a transfer, it's a staging, as Sergio said.
Okay.
Staging, there's not going to be even a convenience place. That's not part of the permit that we filed, for there to even be a convenience station to bring anything. Again, it's a transfer in the respect that our trucks will bring it, dump it,
I see.
pick it
So
back up and haul it.
It's not something that we would then be moving in the direction that other municipalities do
Not
of
at this
actually
time.
selling their...
Not at this time, no.
Not at this time.
Right.
We should consider it because it does,
Sure.
it is something that, it does bring in revenue, and it also is something that in terms of environmentally, it's incredibly environmental.
In the meantime, we're doing a lot of education on reuse. I notice you're using your glass bottle.
Yes.
People need to, our residents need to get the message, reuse your glass bottles.
Which I love the drop it or swap it thing, because the most environmental thing that you can possibly do is reuse.
Is reuse, right.
That is the
And our education
recycling is
programs are
actually
focusing on that.
not incredibly environmental. It uses a lot of energy. It's certainly better than waste, but not much better.
Right.
And then have we looked at doing a separate food compost facility, since like 25% of municipal?
We don't have any, our compost facility can't take food. It's not large enough. It doesn't have the infrastructure for it. I don't know if there's any land that we'd be able to do that. Again, it would cost money. It would cost money to build it. It would cost money to run it. So I don't know that we would do that. But what we're doing with our program is we're starting small. We're doing things that we can sustain. There will be some collection drop-off locations and things in 26. And we'll be partnering more than likely with the Bethlehem compost facility to make sure the stuff gets compost. So we're trying to get residents to use the backyard option, which we're giving you everything you need, including education, use the drop-off locations, or we're also underwriting the setup fees, the setup cost, to use one of the two services that come to your house, which is Radix or 360. So we're doing our part, and we're going to continue to expand on it and explore other ways. But that's where we're going to start.
Yeah, as we go through, I guess as we go through the process of looking at options longer term when it comes to our landfill and looking towards the future, we will save a lot of money longer term, the less money that we have to figure out what to do with in waste.
Yeah, I agree.
And so a big part of that is having the ability to actually have solid recycling materials that we can sell. And also removing as much as possible, which food waste is like a complete no-brainer when it comes to that. And then I just wanted to touch on, have we, so I'm totally shifting gears, and now I'm talking about salt, which I went through 2 seminars today on road salt, and how much it's impacting our water, not our water in Albany, fortunately, but in other places. So how much, we've done a lot of brining. Like, I know that that's been a huge success for the city of Albany. Has that brought down the amount of salt?
The estimates are like 20 tons for 100 miles, the reduction. It's that much of a difference. Plus also this year, we are experimenting with some new technology. We're going to calibrate our salt spreaders in the back. And depending on the pH level, believe it or not, AI, it's a good thing, something say bad thing, could read the pH level and regulate the back of the soil. We're experimenting with that. As a matter of fact, we're having a meeting tomorrow about looking at, experimenting, only do 2 or 3 salters for now, see how that goes, and then go into it. But yeah, the reduction with the use of brine is substantial for 100 miles. All the numbers are indicative of moving to a brine system. New York City moved to brine system. The Lake George area is telling their municipalities to go to a brine system rather than just salting. So yes.
That technology that you're talking about, that's one of the innovations that they're talking about, including there's something with telling the temperature to adjust exactly how much salt you put out.
How much salt was deployed, whether it was deployed at all, as well as if a plow was up or down. That's the other function that we're looking at with this as a pilot, which will help when all of the council get the calls that they came by my house, but I didn't see the plow down. We'll have data to tell us that the plow was in fact down. They just weren't driving past the house. So this will help for a lot of people for a lot of things.
Those are all of my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, a couple questions from me, and I typically like to go last on the committee, so my questions are less, but out of respect to fellow committee members, I want to be the last one to hit these. So just going back to the trash fee, I don't know enough about local surroundings, local cities, what they're doing. I appreciate the monthly fee comparison that you have for private haulers, which I know a lot of the suburb or smaller towns have those agreements, but I'm curious about other small cities within our region, like Troy, Schenectady. Are they on municipal or are they private haulers?
Well, Schenectady is municipal. Troy, I think, is a hybrid, if I'm not mistaken. See, part of the differences between ours and theirs is some of them collect commercial for a fee, and some don't. So it's not apples to apples in a lot of cases. One thing I will tell you about with the trash fee is that those numbers that you're seeing in comparison, they don't include as much as we do. Okay, so bulky items, they don't collect it, and if they do, it's $25, $30 each item. They don't collect appliances, they don't collect couches, they don't collect furniture. All of that can be picked up, but for a fee per item fee, which is almost double or triple the amount of 1 month of a trash fee for us. So that's one thing when we've done our comparisons and our analysis, that's one thing we've found.
That's interesting. Thank you for that. And then just thinking of like Schenectady in that example, do we know their average monthly fee for trash?
Their proposed budget has.
You know what, I don't know. It hasn't increased, but I don't know. I do have some figures, but I don't have them on me. I don't have them memorized.
Okay.
Theirs is higher. I know it is, but definitely higher than ours. Oh, there's no doubt about that. That much I can tell you.
But they're proposing it, if I'm not wrong, $17 increase. They're proposing.
Oh, it increased, but they're
proposing.
yeah. But we can get you that information. Yeah. That's not a problem.
Okay. And then we're always asking this question, but for the public, since we are focusing on general services right now, can you just go over the timing of the landfill closure again?
So you want to do that?
Well,
Go ahead, you do.
We have done a tremendous amount of effort in trying to reduce and extend that day. One of the things that we've done, as Gideon said, is increase some of the fees so that the haulers are coming less, so there's less volume. The other thing that we did is we purchased what is called a garbage shredder, where actually literally you could take a garbage truck, dump it into the shredder, and it shreds it down to almost a paper-thin level. That would buy us at least another prediction from an engineering, about 6 to 8 months. But right now, our hard date is fall of 2028. That's right now. That might change, and I'll tell you why that might change. As the garbage settles, you'll have some cells that will allow for an extra 15, 20 tons to go. And because we are restricted by the height and the volume by DEC. But if we could see, and this is where the shredder comes in very handy. If we're on a hill and there's a cell that it's settled substantially and we could get 3 or 4 days, we could shoot the garbage to that cell and level it off. So right now, we do these exercises almost every year. Right now, our hard date is fall of 2028.
Well, 2028. Thank you so much. And then another question, because we had a public comment on this, just again for public awareness, when you do street repavings and with that you do tree planting, which is great for the environment, great for our city, can you just go over that process of notifications?
So the notification, so in years past when the repaving was done out of DGS, when engineering was a division, we would send out a letter along as the tree was going to be planted and say it's going to be planted. Now that engineering is doing that, I believe they're handling the letters for that now. So I don't know what that happened there, but we do, if a decision is made by a resident in the past, if a decision was made by a resident that they didn't want the tree, we would give them enough time, and even if the tree got put there by mistake, we could still remove it. It's still early enough that we could remove it and replant it someplace else. So if they don't want that, that's all they have to do is let us know. Okay. And I know that the gentleman would be in contact in engineering with us if we need to help out and make that happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. The last question from me is the golf course. Are there any changes to fees expected this year, or are we staying flat?
We're staying flat.
At this point, we're staying flat, but we're still in conversation.
Yeah.
There's still conversations. I mean, we won't make that final determination until, probably, early spring, right before we open the courses, we'll announce. There's a couple new contracts that are, we're doing for the Golf Pro and for golf carts and things of that nature that may tell us what we need to do with that,
Thank you. Other questions from council members? We'll go Councilmember Conti, Councilmember Hoey, and then we'll circle back to questions from Councilmember Ballerin.
Thank you. And I guess my question, most of it comes back to the trash fee, and I share Councilmember Ballerin's concerns about the impact. Just by way of history, I was actually the original sponsor of the local law establishing it back in 2015. It was actually adopted in 2016 after we adopted the budget in 2015 because we couldn't get it together. And nobody else wanted to carry it, and that's why it ended up with me. But it was a very painful experience. And it was, at that point, meant to be a varying fee based on the cost of curbside collection, which there was some hope that actually the cost would be going down as we diverted more trash away. But that never really happened, and no one wanted to do the calculations, and then we ended up with the flat fee, I think, in 2019. So one of my questions is, what costs are we included when we calculate the cost of curbside collection? Was it, I'm trying to remember back, it was at the actual cost of collecting the trash curbside. I don't recall that recycling was included in that at the time.
No, because recycling was still either a rebate was coming back based on a floor price they gave us, or it was a net zero.
So we weren't including the cost of picking up recycling, which you're now including that cost in the cost of the curbside collection fee.
Yes. $150 a ton, for the record, is what we were paying to get rid of our recycling.
Okay.
To bring it. That's why reduction is so important to this process, to reuse and reduce your waste in the first place, because even recycling, the cost is up there.
Costs related, there are no costs related to the landfill that are included?
No.
Okay.
But ultimately, that would need to be taken into consideration in the future when there is a tip fee.
Yeah. Composting is not included?
No.
Or anything like that? There used to be, we talked about it, something called a waste diversion, a waste diversion factor where we were able to calculate the percentage of waste diverted from the landfill based on either recycling or, I mean, we included, composting as part of that factor. Is that something that's still calculated?
You know, it's not, well, I can't say that we don't.
How do we measure then
Yeah.
our waste, your campaign in terms of, reduce, reuse, recycle?
Yep.
What do you use to measure the success
So-
or failure?
All right, so back in the day, what you're remembering, again, Richard and I have been here a long time,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
what you're remembering is the state would require us to do a diversion report where we would have to give them all of our numbers.
Right.
The problem with that is all the trash was front-loaded, that amount was there because we knew what the trash numbers were. What you couldn't account for is the recycling that was done for commercial. You couldn't account for what was done, the bottles. For example, everybody recycles their bottles, they return them to the store. We couldn't get any of that data. I think it found it harder and harder to get the data statewide, so they stopped that as a mandatory thing. So we were able to give the council and give everybody numbers each year for what the city of Albany was doing and what our planning unit was doing for a percentage and give you a diversion rate. We're not calculating it anymore, but we are keeping track of the programs that DGS is doing. We can tell you what we're picking up hazardous waste at the compost, at the compost facility, what's coming in, and we can give a number. We just haven't, we've got the information, we just haven't done the report and anymore, because again, it's not mandated by the state anymore. We do a biannual report, which is due to the state. We give that every 2 years, and that includes some of that data, but it doesn't necessarily produce a percentage or a diversion. But we do have those numbers. When we do shredding, we know exactly how much is being shredded, which is diverted. We know what's happening with hazardous waste, with our compost, with the food. We know what's going on, and so we do have numbers.
Yeah, so it's not a good calculation.
At this time, no, it's not.
All right. So for example, I put curbside recycling out once a week.
Mm-hmm.
I put my trash out once every other week because I just really don't generate that much.
Well, that's good.
I take my composting down to the Radix drop off, and that's still the only one. I don't know if there's one uptown also, but I do that. A lot of folks on my block have the pickup from Direct, and they have their things out.
Yeah.
And the plastic bags and stuff, including my bread bags and everything else, go to the grocery store or whatever.
Right.
So I see there's a real ability to, if you really make the effort, to really reduce the amount you put curbside.
Yes.
And when we started doing the composting and bringing down a Radix, we just cut everything in half. And I just don't know how many. It was easy to do that, and if you do the curbside collection, you're in effect, I believe, paying $15 a month, which is what. So there's not as much incentive there to do that.
Yeah. Well, we've got all of this stuff is there, and if I wish more residents would take advantage of it. We've got these new smart bins that are going to go out. They're kind of like the Big Belly bins. We announced this a couple months back. They're kind of like the Big Bellies, if everybody remembers, the solar powered.
Big Bellies that were a disaster. Okay.
They were a disaster after a certain period of time. They were okay in the beginning, but yes, they did end up not having such a great. But these are smart bins where you would have a card and you would register as part of the program, and you could then bring it and drop them off. There'll be 10 locations. We're still deciding where that's going to be, and so we're working on all the funding for that with grants, and it's all grants, which is paying for that. So we're hoping more people will compost that way.
One of the other issues about the trash collection fee, the flat fee per unit, I guess my question is there an incremental, is the incremental cost increase from collecting at a 1-unit building versus a 2 or 3-unit building an actual doubling? Because, so if I'm collecting at a 1-unit building and I'm paying, you're proposing $180, if I collect at a 2-unit building, I mean, there's not a lot more of personnel or effort going into that. You're there anyway, et cetera, et cetera. You might be collecting a little bit more trash, but you're not necessarily collecting double what you collected at a 2, and as you go to 3 and 4, et cetera. So,
I mean, I totally understand the point you're getting.
In terms of private haulers, is that the way they calculate their fees?
So for example, a private hauler charges you, let's just say $50 a month to pick up your can. If you put out 10 cans, you owe $500. If you put out 1 can, you owe $50.
Right.
So in some sense, yes, that is how a private hauler would structure their fee, because if there's 4 apartments with 4 individuals and 4 cans, the private hauler would collect $200 a month.
So that's almost another way of doing like pay-as-you-throw, which I've always been interested in, but I understand there are other issues there and equity issues, et cetera. But one thing that does, it encourages you to reduce the amount of waste that you put curbside. And the way you do that, frankly, is through financial incentives in one way or the other. And it seems this whole trash collection system we have and the flat fee that applies, there's no incentives to do anything to reduce the amount. I know people who will just don't do anything and they stuff everything they can and put it out, including in their big bags, their recycling bottles and everything else that you're not going to see and go into the landfill anyway. So that's the big problem with this. There's just no incentives. And I think when we originally did this back in 2015 or 2016, there was a lot of discussion, the concepts back there were, can we get to a place where we're actually creating incentives to reduce the cost. And the whole idea back then of having a fee that would be adjusted every year based on the amount was that we were hopefully being successful in reducing the amount of waste that went into the landfill, and therefore reducing the cost of collection and disposal.
but
we've just kind of lost that.
I understand that, but 10, 15 years ago, the logic was that diverting waste to recycling was going to save money.
Yeah, well, yeah.
In fact, the more we recycle, the more money we lose.
Right.
Or not, money we lose isn't the right answer. The more we expend.
I know what you're saying, I know what you're saying. And I know there are some communities, municipalities, I think, that have actually cut back on recycling and just let it go into the waste stream, which I'm not advocating or anything like that.
No, of course not. No one's advocating that. But if we're trying to structure economic incentives to fees, that's what we're discussing.
The other thing we were discussing back then was going back to the bulky items. And so right now, you would call, if you have a bulky item, you don't really define bulky items, other than that they're large items that one person can't pick up. Sofas, well, sometimes they're easy to throw in or whatever, but I'm thinking more of the white goods, like, appliances, refrigerators also, things like that. So right now, you're in theory supposed to call in advance. That doesn't always happen, depending on the size, whatever. But I think particularly for white goods, you would call in advance because you're not going to pick them up curbside on the routine, et cetera, et cetera. There's no cost right now.
It doesn't exist.
Okay.
Right.
We
White
were.
goods don't exist because the scrappers are getting it before we can get them. The only thing that's left for a white goods truck is tires, which are costing us quite a bit. We need to talk.
Okay.
So that's the reality of that there, is that we're not getting, at one point there was 80, and we're talking probably 10, 15 years ago now, at least 12, well,
Yeah.
10 or 12. There was $80,000 to $100,000 in revenue every year for scrap metal. It doesn't exist anymore because they're gone. The scrappers are getting it 5 minutes after they're put out, they're gone. So that's the reality of that. But
So you're not really picking that much up, you're saying, in terms of the
we're
metal.
not picking that much up. But if it was there and it did need to be, there are things that the scrappers don't want that are considered white goods,
But then you pay.
but we have to pay to get rid of them.
All right. Well, I guess the point I'm getting at is that's an extra item that most people don't really use, but who are in effect paying for it. And so it's kind of like another, inequity in the flat fee system, in a sense, is that you're paying a universal fee, but there are people who are using the program a lot more, especially for those heavy, bulky items, whether it's metal, white goods, or furniture, or construction debris also, and things like that, which really should be in some way carved out, and there should be a separate fee for that, for people who are doing that. That still would probably be less expensive than having someone else, but that's just, and I don't know that could somehow impact the fee itself. But it's an inequity, and that's, you know, when you have a flat fee like this, it is inequitable because not everybody generates the same. And I've had people say, you know, I put out one little bag for our 3-unit household, and I'm paying this fee, and it's just not fair. Question on the, and you know, I'm the one who kind of worked in the exemptions back then with the low-income senior and the enhanced star. Back then, with the low-income senior, the assessor always completed those applications, and I assume those got, well, they would have to get over to the treasurer's office because that would affect your general property tax. But at the time, the assessor was also doing the STAR program, both basic and enhanced. Enhanced also had to be done, renewed every year. As I understand right now, the assessor no longer does that. And it's I believe, if I'm correct, it's done through state taxation and finance.
Yeah.
How does that information then get to, I guess, to the treasurer's office to be applied to the tax bill or not?
I would have to ask the assessor of what reports he gets from, you know, ORPS and, you know, how that gets applied
With
onto
the assessor, I didn't know if the assessor would get it because there's no implication on anything that the assessor does on the enhanced star, or it's no longer part of your property tax. You get a special.
It's an income tax credit, yeah.
Or, yeah, I think you get a check now. So I don't know how that works, if there's something happening or not. And it would be interesting to understand that. Yeah, I mean, I have other issues with the collection fee, and probably I'm trying to think of more, but it's something that I really think we really need to look at. I like the idea, and I talked earlier about if we could kind of phase it in some way, but it's just the impact of the property tax increases, the significant hit on this side on the fee. A lot of people in my ward were hit with reassessment, substantial number, and it's just a lot, you know, coming down to, can we really afford some of this affordability in terms of living here or even being homeowners, and that's another concern. Frank, I want to come back on the litter basket inventory, which we've talked about that topic in the past. And so I know we've talked about in the past on Lark Street, because I think we lost a lot when they did the street.
Yes.
And I don't think we ever got them back, and I don't know if there have been additional discussions, but in trying to address some of that, or
Okay,
has that-
so we found a few in our yard.
Two?
That were, yeah, no, I want to say there were 4, I think. I don't
think we
have the
lost a
exact
lot
number,
more.
but we did find a few. And I need locations. If you tell me where they need to go, we will get them put
Yeah,
back.
yeah, okay.
And if you remember, I think you had given that to the bid to do, and it just didn't happen.
Well,
So
we're trying,
if you want to just make the decision of where they go by talking to the whoever, and we'll
All
get
right, so
them put out.
we're at the point right now where you have the inventory, we know we're supposed to get some.
Mhm.
And if we give you a list of locations, because we have very few right now, in a lot of areas that should have them that are just totally.
If you give me the locations where you think they should be based on, and that we don't have an inventory from where they were before, so we can figure that out. And then if we don't have them, I can put I did put a couple city trash baskets there. They don't match, but I did put them there in the meantime. I tried to purchase, I was given by the former bid director who's working for the downtown bid now. He gave me the name of the company. I reached out to the company, and they don't take purchase orders. We got to do it. So I was like, okay, I have to circle back to get that same can.
Okay.
So it may be time to talk about replacing all the cans with something I can get. And if there's a few of them, let's find a different model that I can get and change them out.
The inventory, again, it's a strategy. I'm a statistics guy, I'm a numbers guy. It not only identifies the garbage can, it has a picture of the actual garbage can, has the condition of the actual garbage can, has a GPS location that we can map it out. So the inventory needed to be done because now we have a map and we can see the blind spots or the empty spots, and would definitely work with you on that.
And the curbside litter trash bins you basically are focusing on commercial areas? You don't put them in
No,
residential?
they're,
You put them in
well,
residential?
for the most part, high pedestrian areas, let's say it that way.
Right.
Not just commercial areas. Because there's areas like, and it's broken down. The good thing about this inventory is that I was very curious to see how it broke down ward by ward, because this is part of the equity agenda, so we need to make sure that we're doing it correct. You're gonna find that the 8th ward doesn't have as many because there's not as many commercial areas. There's not as many pedestrian areas, right? They're on Whitehall, they're on New Scotland, but they're not on the side streets. They're not gonna be, that's not, you'll find certain areas, but then you're gonna see they're really heavy in the 6th ward. Well, they were.
We don't really, I mean, the problem with measuring it by ward is the downtown business district.
That's what I'm
has
saying.
the hugest amount.
Yes, downtown,
It's
yes.
not- it's not-
Downtown, and Central Avenue too. There's three, three wards that encompass the central bid. So you have to factor that all in. Yes,
Streets and sidewalks, that's engineering? Or?
engineering,
Okay.
yes.
So I won't bother you with that.
Yeah, it's engineering.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner. You know, you're lucky there's not 15 council members here, but during this whole conversation, so many times I want to jump in and say this and that, and I want to keep, you know, it's almost 8 o'clock and we still have another group. But I do have a few things I'd just like to talk about real fast, and there will be some questions. Just to give you my background, my father was a sanitation man down in New York City, in Queens, worked out of the Betts Avenue incinerator. That was the way they dealt with garbage back then, burn it. And if you draw circles, cancer circles, you know, I have relatives that died, not the right way to deal with garbage. I worked on Wall Street, on 55 Water Street, 47th floor. I'd get in the morning, watch the barge go out with the seagulls chasing after it. They would go out to sea, dump the garbage into the sea. And then, you know, Staten Island, I know Councilman Conti's from Staten Island, Fresh Kill landfill, you drive by there, it's about 10 of our landfills put together. So as a society, we don't know how to deal with our garbage. And that's what we're faced with now, and we're getting, unfortunately, we're paying the cost for our previous generations. And that's the way life is sometimes. You know, people didn't know back then. They didn't know dumping PCBs in the Hudson River would cause problems later, and that's what goes on. But you know, I want to go back to my father. He was my mom stayed home. They raised 4 children on a sanitation salary, and you know, the sanitation and general services. You provide a service, but not only a service, but public health. Because when you start thinking about the garbage with the rats, the diseases, that's what we're doing. You wouldn't question a doctor on cost. You know, if you got cancer or you got some kind of disease, you'll give whatever it is to live. And unfortunately, you know, people don't understand the importance of garbage because it's the stigma of it. It's garbage. But all the solutions you've talked about, that we're talking about recycling, that's where we need to go. We need to try to figure out as a society, and yes, there'll be upfront costs, but in the future, those costs will go down. The landfill, someday that landfill is going to be worth millions, maybe billions of dollars with the material that's in it. That's going to be a future mine at some point, because in the old days, people dumped gold and everything down into there. So I just wanted to bring that up. Salt. I hate salt. Frank, I told you before, I don't want you to salt my road anymore. You're destroying my car. You're destroying a brand-new paved road. We're on a dead end. So what happens is the truck backs down and the thing's going, and I come out, and I got pictures of like 2-3 inches of salt. I think salt should be the last thing we need to do on small side streets. I mean, plowing, keeping the snow down is important, but we got to look at the amount of salt that we're using, because it does end up in the Hudson River. It goes down into our sewer system, into the storms, and out into the Hudson, and it's not good. It's not good for the people downstate that are drinking our Hudson River water. So we need to do something like that. I want to talk about revenue. The golf course. You know, the golf course is owned by the whole city, not just the 8th Ward. I had proposed some time ago, can we do something, soccer field, something to generate revenue where we can have tournaments, bring people into the city so they're renting hotels like other towns do. I know there's big tournaments, Guilderland, Colony. We have our we have our soccer field on a dump, the old dump over on Frisbee Avenue, which blew up some houses some years ago. But anyhow, with the golf course, I've been there, I have dogs, I love dogs. I really feel that, though, we should have some kind of registration fee or something. If people are going to use the golf course to walk their dogs, I think we should give a break to city residents. But when you're up there, most of the people are from Bethlehem. They come to our golf course to use it. We have sleigh riding, other stuff. If I go to Bethlehem, I can't use their parks. I can't swim in their pool, okay? So maybe we got to look at something, and again, not for this budget, but future thoughts about how do we raise money. One thing I'd like to see at the golf course is cross-country skiing. I think we should be renting skis. It'd be another way to generate revenue when we can't make revenue from renting out golf carts and allowing people to use the holes. Another revenue point is, in my ward, we've tore down 3 or 4 houses because of structural problems. There are empty lots there, and the previous owners, for whatever reason, well, now the county owns it. They're not getting cut, and I have to bother you all the time. Can you please go and cut? Is there any way, and again, I don't want to answer right now, but just think about, is there a way that we can get, we let the county know that, look, we got to be here every 5-6 weeks. This is the cost for this year, and get that money. I mean, they're cutting their taxes. Let's ask Uncle Dan to give us a little bit of that money to help us out here. And then you had mentioned, I had it written down about the scrappers. Is there any way we can license them? That if you're driving around our streets, picking up stuff that legally belongs to the city, once it goes out on the curb, that's city property. Is there any way that we can have them, licensed? And it'd be a good way to regulate, because what happens a lot of times, they go through and they leave the place a mess. And then the people call up and they're blaming you guys, and it's not you, it was the scrappers that were there at night. And garbage enforcement down in Queens, my brother still lives in Queens, they have to separate their garbage, and they have inspectors go around, and they look in the garbage. And if you have a bottle in a regular, food waste bag, you get fined, and it's big fines. We're talking about $150. I'll shut up now, but thank you for listening to my diatribe.
Those are all great ideas. It's just that there's logistical and problems that we consider every single possibility to reduce cost all the times.
So thank you for giving them to us.
Thank you for giving it to us. But don't go, I don't want anyone here that we're out there spending money like drunken sailors. I like to call myself a garbologist. Garbage is an issue, and garbage is a commodity. People refuse to understand that. And there's fluctuations in the tonnage, there's fluctuation in the markets. It's going to be a problem. I agree, as the councilwoman said. Today we're thinking about, hauling the garbage to another landfill. What happens when that landfill closes? What do we do then? Reduction and diversion is the key to everything. Thank you.
Councilmember Vallerin.
Thank you, Sharon, and I'm going to be brief. First, I just want to thank you and your team for all the efforts you've done over the last few years to keep the landfill open. I remember when I first started, I think the closing date was 2022, and then it was 2024, and then 2026, and I think now we're at 2028, the fall of 2028. So the extension of the life of the landfill, I think, is huge, and I appreciate all your efforts and anything you can continue to do to give us as many more months and years, because once that landfill is closed, this $90 increase per unit is going to look like nothing. And that's the real conversation we need to start having when we looked at how can we get reduction of actual trash long term, because that's the cliff we're headed to, and we're headed there very, very shortly. But thank you for your efforts, for giving us a bridge, or keeping the bridge going for as long as we have and as long as we can. My second question has to do with, and it's my last and quick one. How are we doing with staffing and retention and vacancies? I know that was an issue a couple of years ago. Are we keeping our staff? Are we filling up the positions? Are we in a better place than we've been in the past?
Yeah, the residency requirement has helped.
We're not as bad as we were a couple of years ago, where we were really panicking. I think now we have about 3 or 4 vacancies. The issue continues to be CDL because of the drug testing. That continues to be a challenge, and that's not just us. That's statewide. That's nationwide. You know, but the residency has helped. We still interview residents, qualified residents first, and then we go outside in case no applicants apply for it. So we're still kind of following that, but we're not restricted by it. But CDL continues to be a challenge. The new regulation coming down the pike that we're hearing are going to come down the pike are going to make it even more challenging. And it's an issue. It's an issue. Even you know, some people choose to enjoy their cannabis and not you know, once CDL we're bounded by federal law. That's not an exemption. So yeah, but we're doing much better. We're doing much better, and we're providing a lot more training. Our people are thanking for that, and we're trying to make whatever we have a little bit better, a little bit more trained, a little bit more skilled, so that we maintain the staff that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
Any additional questions or comments before we go to bonds?
Sorry, Chairwoman, got an update on Schenectady's trash fee. It is proposed to be $450 for 2026. Yeah.
No.
No, it has I believe, a $50-ish increase.
Right.
I thought they didn't have a current trash fee, but they pay. They do.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of elements to their proposal, like adding additional surcharges for bulk trash and those types of things.
They already have surcharges for bulk trash.
So.
But Schenectady does have a trash fee. I know that this year proposed budget, because we talk, we're in the same business, so we all kind of talk, and they're proposing a significant raise this year. I think somewhere $17 a month. $17 keeps on ringing on my head. So there might be $50 plus a $17, something ridiculous. Right. Oh, okay. Okay.
And then the city of Rensselaer, I know, is $260 a year. I don't know if they have a proposed increase, and Troy is $160 per unit.
Right.
Per year.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, let's transition to bonds. Okay, so our first bond for Department of General Services is Ordinance 46-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $1 million, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of 1 million serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof. General Services, Capitol Hills rehabilitations and improvements.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for the golf course.
That's for the golf course irrigation. Yes, that's, the irrigation system needs work, and we need to replace certain, it's not the entire thing, but certain of the holes. I think it's the first 9, I think?
First 9.
The first 9?
Yeah, the first 9.
And that's to cover that.
Thank you.
The golf course is 26 years old. The pumps were done
No, I don't know
about
when they-
6 years ago,
I don't
6,
know
7 years ago.
when that was done.
The irrigation piping is really bad.
Thank you. Questions, comments on this ordinance? Councilmember Farrell.
I move to move ordinance 46-10125 through the committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Councilmember Farrell. Is there a second? All right, we have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrell. We have a second from Councilmember Ballerin. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 46-10125 moves out of Finance Committee with a positive recommendation. We'll go to our next ordinance. That's ordinance 47-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $500,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $500,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof. General Services Automated Public Restrooms. You previously mentioned that rough cost or prior cost of the one that we have at Black Lives Matter Park was $425,000.
Correct.
You also have some authorizations that you didn't use in prior years, so you're looking to do 2 or 3 locations this year, locations to be determined.
Correct.
Any additional information to share?
No.
No, we don't expect, one of the things I want to mention is we don't expect these bathrooms, the additional bathrooms, to be as costly
Yeah,
as the Black
yeah.
Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter had no water, no sewer, no electric. That was all utilities that we had to put together.
But without knowing the locations, we can't be certain, but that's our hope.
So,
And how often are you, with the automated bathrooms, how often are you going in and doing?
It's really the same. The difference is in between uses, it's cleaner for the resident, for the user. That's the difference. We're still going to get there once a day to do what we do, but it's really in between. If one person goes in at the beginning of the day and makes a mess, then it's that way for a regular bathroom throughout the rest of the day. We're here, the floor cleans, the bowl cleans, that type of thing.
sanitary.
It's more sanitary.
Councilmember Keegan?
I know we've previously talked about Woodlawn Park. Do you know if you guys are looking?
What park?
at Woodlawn Park?
Yeah, right now we haven't discussed, there's almost all the parks are kind of, an option at this point, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Additional questions, comments on this ordinance? Okay. Is there a motion? Councilmember Ballerin.
I'll make a motion to move ordinance 47.101.25 out with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, we have a positive recommendation from Councilmember Ballerin. We have a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 47-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Moving forward, ordinance 48-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $500,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $500,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof. General Services citywide irrigation systems.
So again, as we previously stated, we're going to be trying to put, irrigation systems in as many of the city gardens as we can, which would help us deal with shortages of staffing and drought conditions and things like that.
Thank you. Questions, comments on this ordinance? Hearing none, is there a motion? Councilmember Keegan?
I make a motion to move ordinance 48-10125 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? We have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan. We have a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 48-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next up, we have ordinance 49-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $500,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $500,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof. I tried to do that in one breath, didn't work. General Services Ridgefield Park Restroom Rehabilitation. It's pretty self-explanatory, and you described it earlier.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments on this ordinance? Okay.
I would love to make a motion. I move that we move ordinance 49-10125 out of the committee with positive recommendation.
Thank you. We have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrow. We have a second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 49-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next up, we have ordinance 50-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing the certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $250,000, authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $250,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, general services, security fence installation. You had mentioned, I believe, that these are fences, fences around parks.
Yes, city parks, any fences that are needed anywhere in the city that's city-owned property.
Including playing fields, some of the,
Yes.
what they call it, clamshell for baseball.
Yeah.
Some of them are broken or way past their time, including those.
Yes.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Okay, Councilmember Ballerin.
Colby Park needs some fences by a basketball court.
It's on the list.
Oh, yeah.
It is
Thank
definitely
you.
on the
I
list.
spoke to Recreation.
We're working with Recreation. They're doing some work over there. We're going to then come in and do as well.
Thank you.
If no further questions on this, is there a motion? Councilmember Keegan.
I make a motion to move ordinance 50-10125 out of committee with positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, we have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan. We have a second from Councilmember Ballerin. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 50-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next, we have ordinance 51-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $300,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $300,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, general services, storage structures. For this one, you said just updating sheds around the city. That was my
Shed,
notes.
yeah, outside building sheds, things for storage in wherever, different places in the department and the city. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, but I'm pleased to make a motion.
Please do.
I move that we move ordinance 51-10125 out of the committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 51-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. We are going to skip ordinance 52-10125. We typically hold that for street and sidewalk resurfacing until we get further information there. So then we're going to move
No,
down.
actually, no. That's DGS's. That's for the PPSD and the overlays, and remember I spoke about it early, the overlays and some sidewalk improvements, the spot stuff, the smaller stuff that's too small for engineering. So this isn't the engineering.
Okay, I see.
So it's separate because it's maintenance, it's those overlays that need to be done that, to fix the extra sidewalk panels they're too big, the ADA ones that need to be done, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
And in the
for
past, it wasn't necessary because the bond was issued for DGS, that was also for streets, so we would share it, but we're trying to keep it, we're a different department now, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
I'm pleased to make a motion.
Please do.
I move that we move ordinance 52-10125 out of the committee with a positive recommendation.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrell. We have a second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 52-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Going down, we have ordinance 53-10125. This is a ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $250,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $250,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, general services, streetscape, and park fixtures. Any additional comments on this one?
No, this is based on our inventory.
Yeah.
We're replacing the old wooden
Park benches.
park tables, making them handicap accessible, making sure that accessibility for all.
Bike racks, things of that nature.
Bike racks and also Our hardware, what we call hardware.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Conti.
So it's general replacement, it's not geared to anything specific?
No, it's general
No, general
replacements,
replacement.
general replacements. So as that park inventory shows us that this park bench needs to be replaced, there's funding available to do that.
What we usually do, work with recreation department, if they have a project going on in the park, they'll finish their project, and then we go in and talk about replacing the
Okay. Any additional questions? If not, is there a motion? Councilmember Keegan.
I make a motion to move ordinance 53-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation, and I just want to emphasize how much I appreciate that you guys are the only ones who are putting wheelchair accessible equipment into our parks. Because in every single project that got done this year, the only place that I could park a wheelchair was at a table that you guys put in, and not on any other equipment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, we have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan. We have a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 53-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next, should this one, we deferred this one, 54-101. Are you overseeing Lincoln Park Connector?
No.
You? No.
I thought that was what?
This is the mystery of the bonds.
Planning.
Planning.
They said no.
No? Oh,
Yeah.
no, definitely.
Is that all of ours? Is that all of ours? Okay.
That's the connector pathway from the New York State Museum to Lincoln Park that I believe is attached to potential state funding to do the study for that. And no one seems to know what department is overseeing that project.
I have to stand up, my legs are.
But they said no.
No, definitely not public services. Actually, it's gonna be engineering. Okay. He's taking it, engineering.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So with that, that has come to the long conclusion of Department of General Services. Thank you both very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
And all the work you do for our city day in and day out.
Thank you. All right.
To our most patient group, we are up to engineering. I will say this is the longest night of budget season so far. So we'll transition to engineering now. If anyone needs to take a quick break, please do. All right. Bill and Bill, thank you very much again for being here this evening. We are going to go into your presentation. I know Budget Director stepped out, we also have Council Member stepped out, but we're just gonna keep this churning here. So without further ado, we'll hand it over to you for your presentation.
Okay. What's that? There we go. We are the engineering department. We include Division of Engineering.
Sorry, can you just make sure you're talking into the mic? It's hard to
Yes.
hear. Thank
We
you.
include the Division of Engineering, Central Maintenance, Permitting, and Traffic Engineering. We handle a large number of capital projects throughout the city, including buildings and roadway projects. It's our core functions, the organization chart. The infrastructure group is coming into our department. That's where that Lincoln Park connector comes from. Highlights from 2025, capital projects, completed brevetor, City Hall roof replacement is ongoing, should be completed late winter, early spring. 200 Henry Johnson roof replacement, Lincoln Park pool construction. We'll also be doing a little work over at the farm. Traffic engineering, you want to go over that?
We have our school zone speed enforcement project that we completed and is up and running pretty successfully. We reduced the speed limit this past year down to 25 miles an hour. We are working on replacement of traffic signals and hope to have that project completed by late December, early January. That was at 7 locations. We installed 84 speed humps this year, and we continued our work on the Vision Zero program.
Our project metrics, as Bill mentioned, the speed hump projects, our streets projects. We have contract 1 and contract 2. We're also looking at doing Central and Frisbee. That's a federal funded project. Frisbee will start sometime next year, and I believe Central probably 2027. Pavement markings, basically revitalizing the existing pavement markings that are out there throughout the city. Our operating budget, it's relatively flat. Yes, cap. I won't throw it away. Capital projects, budget summary. I think that's about it. That's it. Questions?
Do you want to go over any of the capital projects explaining, or do you want to maybe hit the increased position that you have for authorized?
We actually worked out the increased position. I believe we eliminated it by shifting things around.
Yeah, so the one increased position is transferring the Director of Sustainability from Admin Services over to engineering to sort of just have sustainability. Really, we just feel it's a better home with engineering, so they can be involved in, you know, the upfront design of every project and try to weave those elements into everything we do.
Yep, thank you. And the capital budget, I mean, if we don't go through it now, we'll just go through it in the bond by bond, and we can just have you explain each one as we do.
Do I do the bonds first with this or whatever?
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you. I know it's been a long night. All right. Let's open up to questions from committee members. Council Member Ballerin, no?
Thank you, Chair. So I've got actually a question that has to do with our, well, first, thank you for staying so late. I do appreciate the fact that you guys have been here over 3 hours now, so thank you. School cameras. So I had a really good conversation with a long-term resident who's also the president of our neighborhood association, who said, you know, most residents, I think, want to be very respectful of the school cameras, It's just that, and they want to make sure all our kids are safe. She has her own little ones, or now they're bigger, but so she understands that. But she said they're not always as easy to know when they're coming up. She says there's some signs, but you don't know if you don't drive very frequently, you don't know when you're hitting the school zone. And she had some good ideas that I wanted to put forward to you. And I said, this is a timely conversation. So some suggestions that she had. Flashing lights that were a little higher, or that flashed when you were getting closer to the zone. The road wake-up roads. Basically, when you're in the highway and you veer...
Rumble strips?
Yes, is that what it's called? She said, is it possible to, when you're about to enter a school zone, to have something like that so that people are very aware, okay, you're about to hit a school zone, lower your speed. Another suggestion, and we can, was singing paint. I've never been, she said that's what it's called. It's on the road. It's kind of like when you drive on it, it makes a noise. It's a different, I've never.
Some kind of friction paint,
It's a friction, yeah, something that creates some type
Never heard of it.
Some type of noise, so that when people are driving on to that area, again, it gives them an awareness, hey, you're hitting the school zone, slow down a little bit lower than you normally. And then the most simplest was just a big orange barrel that you put in the middle of the road with some type of signage saying school zone area coming close. Again, this is a long time resident. I want to say over 50 years in our city. Raised, have a whole family here. As president of our neighborhood association. So I thought some of those ideas were good. So I wanted to bring them to the body, and I've said this is timely because we're meeting today.
All right, we can look into all these, certainly. Just a couple of things that come to mind real quickly. Both the friction paint and the rumble strip make an audible sound. Rumble strips especially are noisy. They make noise, and where other places have had them, they've removed them. For instance, they had them up on, DOT had it on the Northway as you entered going towards the Western Avenue interchange, and some of our residents nearby there, over off of Fuller Road, were making complaints about the noise. This is a number of years ago, but ultimately they were removed because they were so noisy. But again, something we'll certainly look into. Friction paint, I have a feeling it's probably the same thing. It's making a noise, but again, I had never heard of that one before. The flashing lights are something that we're looking into currently, and the barrels in the road are a hittable object. They're something that, especially with a sign on them, they blow over, they get hit. We've not had good luck with anything that we put in the road, and I'll go back to the in-road yield to pedestrian signs. We were going through hundreds of those a year because they were getting destroyed on the roadways. But all good suggestions, something that we can look at further and see if there's anything else out there. So thank you.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Keegan.
Hopefully, I'll be a little bit quicker with my line item questions. I apologize. Looking on page 69, it seems like we're expecting a significant reduction in contractual expenditures. I know when I talked with Howard a couple months back, he had indicated that when we pulled all of the facilities management contracts under engineering, it actually resulted in cost savings for the city. So I'm wondering if that's why we're seeing that downturn in contractual expenditures expected for 2026.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. And I also see that we're incorporating some renovations into your actual budget rather than bonding. Do we know what those projects are? That line item that says renovation city buildings.
Oh, that's in the operating?
That's in your, that's in your operating budget.
That's for small, quick hit projects, not a
Okay.
capital project. Fixing a window, fixing a door, that kind of thing. Something bigger than our central maintenance that can do. However, we'd have to contract it out, but without having to go through a, capital project.
Anytime we don't have to borrow for things, that makes us very happy.
Yes.
So. And then there were it seems under traffic engineering that while we kept staffing flat, there is just some staffing title changes, which is going to actually impact salary costs, I'm assuming, because it looks like we're upgrading some titles. So we're eliminating the chief supervisor and making a director of traffic engineering, and it looks like we're eliminating a project manager position and creating an operations manager position.
Yeah, the chief supervisor of traffic engineering to director, that was a mid-year budget adjustment that the council approved, so that's just reflecting that. And, the request from the department, they're eliminating that project manager and actually moving the second operations manager from the engineering unit over to traffic. So there really is kind of a minimal fiscal impact on those items.
Okay. And then the same thing, you guys are expecting sort of a downswing by about $100,000 in contractual expenditures related to traffic engineering. And that seemed to be spread out amongst a number of different categories. Do we know if that's just based upon fiscal year 2025's actuals?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the 24 actuals and where we're sort of coming in this year, I still think that represents an increase to what the actuals are going to be.
Okay. And then I know that we have two potential zones that we can expand the school zone cameras to. Have we identified where they are going?
We just authorized North Albany Academy off on North Pearl Street. That's a K through 12 school that should have been in the original list, and we realized we missed that one. And then we're looking at the Henry Johnson Charter School on Watervliet Avenue as the next one, as a potential.
Just as a suggestion, and I apologize to Councilmember Hoey if he meant to ask this question, but I know Russell Road has been a really significant concern. I believe that doesn't that abut Eagle Hill? There is one there.
Yeah, it was the very first one we did.
Okay, never mind. I thought we only had one on Western outside of Eagle Hill. Okay. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Farrell.
Thank you. Let me echo my thanks for staying so late. And then I'd also really like to thank Bill. Well, I'd like to thank both Bills, but that Bill, because you right now should be like at home in your jammies retired. But you fully retired and our head of engineering left and you came back. So just thank you so much, because you did not have to do that. We are incredibly lucky to have you. And not just that you, well, maybe you would even be on a beach with a pina colada in your hand. I don't want to limit your options in retirement. But I do want to say that it's just so deeply appreciated because not everybody has that level of dedication to our city and to the projects. And we are incredibly lucky that you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
It matters. And we are especially sorry to be keeping you, of all people, here so late because you should be doing retired people things, which is fabulous and wonderful. I just wanted to note many thanks because, Breveter is amazing. There are hiccups with everything, but boy, not many with that project, and it has completely changed that street. It was an absolute, not even like a runway. It was like it was a full 4-lane highway in the city. And now it's much more reasonable, and it looks like a street that people could live on, which it didn't look like before and didn't feel like before. So huge with that, and we're mid-project with Manning, and aside from people speeding, which happens everywhere in the city and has nothing to do with the project, it really is going incredibly smoothly from the resident perspective. Everybody's been so wonderful, and really just thank you for that. And for the school speed zones, for me, the biggest headaches that I have to deal with are trees, and either, cutting them down, putting them up, whatever it is, there's always something with trees. But the biggest is speeding cars through every single part of my ward. People speed through, and it's dangerous, it's scary, and it is a complete mental game because you cannot compel someone to pay attention to their speed limit. It turns out people literally just don't look at the speed that they're driving. And the reason why I know that that's the problem is because the number of people that are completely shocked that they are getting tickets in school speed zones, and they are outraged by it, which they should not be because they are just breaking the law. That is the first thing that I have ever seen that has actually slowed down traffic. Our traffic across the city is significantly slower in places I never imagined possible because of those school speed zones. And it makes things safer. So for my constituents, I will say weirdly, now I see, it seems like cars on side streets are almost driving faster than on the main roads, which I don't love that either, but I will take slowing down anywhere I can get it because it's unsafe. So thank you for all that you did for that program and for lowering the speed limit. It's actually making a difference. What I would say to anybody that is actually listening or watching this back, please pay attention to your speed, and please be willing to go slower because on the side streets, even 25 is too fast. If you're driving 25 down a narrow side street, it is too fast. It really is. You should be going slower. And yes, it is possible to drive slower. I had people tell me it's not possible to drive under 20. It turns out it is totally possible. You can do it. I believe in all of you. So I just wanted to note that, and obviously any other ideas to slow down traffic, I'm willing to use anything, the experimental bill that you have. I promise you I could get a street in my ward that would be fully behind trying it out, because almost every street in my ward has this issue. The one thing I would note is we've gotten some requests to add reflective tape or something like that on stop signs. I feel like people just don't pay attention and don't care to stop signs, but there is hope from some of my constituents that if there was reflective tape or red tape added to some of the stop signs, that maybe people would notice them more and actually stop. I don't know if that's the case. I was like, well, I could go out and get some reflective tape and see how it goes. But I figured I would note that. And then I just, in terms of the line item, even though Councilmember Keegan did cover it, I just wanted to note the roadway taping. We're not doing less roadway taping, are we? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Deferral of a question that we had earlier, just based on public comment. So it looks like there has been transitioning from street repavings from DGS to your department. And I'm just curious about the communication of the tree planting that happens post street repaving.
The incident on Glen Street, it may have just slipped through the cracks. I know they're sending out letters notifying residents.
So we're still sending out letters letting them know that trees will be planted. Okay, because I remember like getting that on my property. That was very helpful, you know, time in advance to just plan ahead and know that's coming my way.
Yeah, and the resident who spoke actually mentioned the names of 3 of our employees that are on site during these projects. So we have staff on site daily for each of these projects.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And then just a first ward comment, since I will no longer be here at the end of this year. Frisbee, I know, has been a deferred project. With that, one of the main items, and I know it's also transitioned a lot from department to department, and there's been a lot of change in engineering. One of the items that is continuing to be open is our second community meeting. So I just ask for that to be, and I don't know that it's happening this calendar year, but I'm just going to ask for that to be as soon as possible within 2027, prior to your actual project start, to make sure that the community is getting the appropriate notification and understanding of what the project will be. So, okay. Any additional comments, questions from council members? Councilmember Hoey.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, engineering. We couldn't live in the world without you. I want to touch on the speed cameras real fast. That was the original home rule that was part of my legislation, and I was up for re-election this year. I went around and people were complaining to me, and I said it was me. And so I think this was the most important thing that we've done. We've gotten the speed down. And I was on the phone with because my district we got redistricted, and I took a resident from Councilmember Farrell's area. I was on the phone almost an hour, arguing with the person that if you did the speed limit, 25, you don't have to worry. But he had 4 or 5 tickets. I think I had to call you, Bill, because he was saying, well, this camera's saying this, and this camera, well, it is. There is some problems, though, with the speed cameras. We talked briefly, but I just want to bring it up that everybody knows that we talked about it, and if there is a better idea, I'd love to hear it. But over the summer was the big problem, because people said, well, school's out, some schools are out. Well, you know, it was in the Times-Union, maybe it was on TV. People just didn't know, because they don't pay attention to a stop sign. They're not going to pay attention to an article in the paper what schools are open or not. So we discussed it at All Saints. You put the bag. I've been complimented on that. So thank you, because that is now part of my ward, that you did that. So if next summer, if we could have the speed cameras that are not in service, put some covering over it, it would be greatly appreciated. So I'll hit you with that. Oh, you're writing it down. Good. And as you probably saw today in the paper, Schenectady is going to adopt the speed cameras. And I think we're going to start, you know, people, when they start realizing municipalities around us is doing it, they're going to start realizing what a good thing it is. I just got to add, I was down visiting my family in New York City, and I did get a ticket. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for them. And there is one other thing, and in the future, I know this is a short-term contract. We got to get it reauthorized. I think we had 5 years. We have to show statistics. And with the police chief here the other night, he said we definitely see an improvement. But the one big thing, and you know, people always look for, they're mad about getting a ticket, but they always got to blame something else. And the one big thing was, and on Nextdoor and on most of the social media, this was a money grab. When this came through, we never said this is going to be a fine. going to be this much. And then they said, well, why is this company, and the press has really pushed us on it, why is the company making so much more than us? I don't know if there's anything we can do about that, but just, this is what we're dealing with out there, Bill.
We have zero expense on that project. So we didn't pay any of the engineering, construction, we don't do any of the ongoing maintenance. We have zero cost when it comes to this, and zero risk. So the company makes more money than us. We're still making money for something that we implemented, but we really, aside from just doing some administrative and court stuff, we're rolling along on this project that is truly a safety project. I don't look at it, I'm not looking at the money, could care less about the money. Professionally, it's about safety, and that's what my job is. So I think it was a win. It has been a win.
Thank you.
Councilmember Conti?
Yeah, I just want to note on the New York City one, and actually I got hit with a speed zone camera in the city the last time I was down there at 11 p.m. And I figured there was something wrong and look it up. They had to get special state legislation in order to make their system 24 hours. So it's not something that we can do, nor would we want to, unless we want to go back to the state legislature. But I just want to note that that was special state legislation for whatever reason.
It's not only school zones, they've done it in other areas now too. So they have 20 miles an hour around all the boroughs. And I was at a conference 2 years ago, and they had just convinced the legislature to make that a full-time thing. But 20 is slow, but 25 are, in the school zone, and whether it's in session or not, it's driver habit that we're trying to change. And if you could change a driver's habit and people are doing it, whether school's in session or not in session, there's still people walking on sidewalks, they're still crossing our streets, there's still kids out there every day of the week, summer, winter, fall, spring. We need to change driver habit.
Any additional questions, comments for engineering before we go into bonds? Not seeing any. All right. Last part of the evening. We're going to go bond by bond. I'll read them out, and then if you can provide a little bit of explanation, then we'll go into any questions. So first, and just for acknowledgement, we're going to defer the conversation of local law D, which is the curbside waste collection fee, to a later council meeting. First ordinance we want to discuss with you is ordinance 33-10125. As an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $250,000 and authorizing lease financing or the issuance of $250,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering, maintenance, equipment.
That's equipment for traffic engineering that we purchase, whether it's for sign installation or our signal crew or other things, but it's our regular maintenance equipment, and we have a maintenance schedule for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Farrell.
If it's possible to get a list of those things, that would be great, but I still would love to move this with a positive recommendation, ordinance 33-10125 through the committee.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, we have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrell, a second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor? Aye. Oh, please do.
Just for my peace of mind with this, Gideon, because this, at such a small amount, looks like something that could have been incorporated, rather than bonded, could have been incorporated into the budget. Do we know why we bonded versus including it in our operating expenses?
Well, I mean, I guess small is relative. I mean, these are bucket trucks and other pretty significant pieces of equipment for traffic engineering, Yeah, I guess I mean, look, ideally, we would never borrow any money and pay cash for everything, but there's other considerations. Obviously, we discussed that, you know, there is some resistance to the revenue increases included in this budget. You know, when I build a budget, everything needs to be sort of balanced and consider all sides of, you know, expenditure and revenue.
Thank you.
Okay. We're just going to redo the motion process. No worries. So Councilmember Farrell.
I move that we move ordinance 33-101-25 through the committee with positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. All right. So we have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrell, a second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 33-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next, we have ordinance 34-101-25. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $400,000, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $400,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering, roadway striping.
It's our roadway striping program. We have either in-house or contractual services to put down the markings around the city.
Thank you. Questions, comments? If not, is there a motion? Councilmember Keegan.
I'd like to make a motion to move ordinance 34-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. We have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan, a second from Councilmember Ballerin. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 34-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next, we have ordinance 35-101-25. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $300,000, authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $300,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering, traffic safety equipment.
That would be for purchasing message boards and light towers and other safety equipment for our unit that gets deployed around the city for roadway projects and special events and other necessary things that we use them for.
Thank you. Questions on this ordinance? If not, is there a motion? Councilmember Farrell.
I move that we move ordinance 35-101.25 through the committee with positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? We have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrell, a second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 35-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next, we have ordinance 36-101-25. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1,500,000, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $1,500,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering, traffic, signal improvements.
It's our yearly traffic signal replacement program. We have some proposed locations in the budget book, looking at potentially Livingston Avenue and North Lake Avenue, North Pearl and North 3rd Street, North Main and Chestnut, and Morton Avenue and Elizabeth Street, as examples.
And sorry, I couldn't hear the beginning part. What improvements?
Our yearly traffic signal replacement, replacing the aging equipment that's out there.
Thank you. Okay. Questions on this ordinance? If not, is there a motion? Councilmember Keegan.
I would like to recommend that we move ordinance 36-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Positive recommendation motion received from Councilmember Keegan. We have a second from Councilmember Ballerin. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 36-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next, we have ordinance 37-101-25. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1 million, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $1 million serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering, traffic speed reduction.
It's the speed hump program.
Councilmember Keegan.
And I just want to verify, you said earlier you were able to get 84 done this year?
I think it was 84 of them this year, yeah.
Like humps total or 84 street?
I wish it was 84 streets, no, 84 humps on, I think it was 25 streets or something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
We spread them out pretty good, but we did some big stretches too.
I know there was a big coordinated project between the 10th, 9th, and the 6th, though.
And we're open for this year's list.
Thank you.
One comment on that as well, again, saying my departing comments. This year, the list that came out more recently did not include speed hump locations for the 1st Ward and the 7th Ward. 1st Ward were submitted. I will not opine on 7th Ward. I believe those were as well, but that's not under my jurisdiction. But the implication of that is the whole Delaware area neighborhood, since we're connected, 1st and 7th, are not receiving speed humps. So my ask would be in future years, next year coming up, that you look maybe at a project towards that area, because we're going a year without that entire neighborhood really getting benefit of the speed hump program. Councilmember Conti.
So is this amount comparable to what was funded last year? So,
It's the same amount.
okay, so you figure the same. So do you anticipate having a list, and this would also apply to streets and sidewalk ordinances down, do you anticipate having lists of those projects to the council before the year's out?
No, that list comes from the council members to us, and we don't have, this is for 26, so we haven't even started that process yet.
Okay.
I mean, I'm certainly open to everyone who can or wants to get us a list of your,
Right, so
your
this
wants.
This bonding for 26 is related to the
The new,
requests
a new set of requests.
that you got this year.
No, we already built the ones we had this year. I mean, there are a few streets that were left over,
Okay.
but for the most part,
I'm just wondering about the ones that, aside from the ones that were actually constructed this year,
mhm.
then we were asked to give recommendations for 26. Is that, or are we talking about,
No, the last recommendations were for 25.
right?
We constructed those. There are some leftovers from there that go back into consideration. And then
Okay.
whatever we have coming forward for 26 is what we'll put into that list. What we're asking for is something we'll build next year.
Right, but you're getting,
I don't have anything right now.
oh, okay, because I thought I gave something to somebody based on someone's request. I think the mayor asked it in her.
But if you could send them to us, we'll be happy to
Yeah,
keep
okay.
moving that forward.
And just to quickly, are you going to have street and sidewalk lists this year?
We will.
Ordinarily, we do that before we do the bond, so we will have that list this year.
We are meeting with National Grid,
Okay,
Verizon, anybody who typically comes in and digs up our roads on Monday to coordinate with them. And then before Thanksgiving, we'll have a list.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Additional questions, comments on speed humps? Councilmember Ballerin.
I'm being told there was a list, but I haven't seen the list. I have to be honest with you.
I'm referring to the speed humps that were installed for this year.
Oh, the ones that were installed already? Or
Correct.
the ones that are going to be installed next year?
The ones that were installed already.
Okay. So, but this is for next year, correct? This budget's for next year.
This budget's for next year, and I'm just asking for next year considerations to understand that Delaware area did not get speed humps this year.
Is it possible to get a list of where we're going to put speed humps? Is that a possibility? Similar to how we do with the streets?
Of where we put them this year?
No, not this year, but for next year. I did get that list. I'm sorry. So I did get the list. I apologize. I did get the list of where they were put in 2025. I thought there was a list that went out of where you're planning on putting them in 2026. Is that a possibility?
It hasn't come to us yet. So we don't have it. We don't have anything to produce at this point.
Okay, okay, so
And
didn't-
I apologize for that, but it hasn't made it to our level.
How long would it take to get something like that? Is that something we can have before the budget process?
I have to ask. I don't know where everyone has submitted.
I don't
I'm
believe
assuming
that
the mayor's office,
we
but
have ever gotten a list of speed humps before the budget process, so probably this year is not the year to start, but maybe in future years, we can make sure that that happens. And I would just want to note, my child is leaving in about 20 minutes, so I'm going to be leaving in about 7 because I was supposed to have dinner with him, so let's move on.
Okay. Is there an interest slash a motion for this ordinance this evening?
I don't think, we can't get a list this year.
Because I don't even think, like, because people were submitting streets as part of their mayor conversations, and a lot of people didn't even have the conversations. So there has to be a window for them to, for council members to, like, submit streets.
We've never gotten a list of speed humps before the thing. Like, I've never seen us ever get a list of speed humps.
if you
So
go
we
by
can
the flow
hold it-
chart, that we shared with everyone when we started the program 4 years ago, the first step is the council to give us a list of where you'd like to have the humps. Then we have to go out and do an evaluation to make sure that we can put them on those streets, and then we move forward from there.
And sometimes they're actually able to do more. Like, I've gotten, like, bonus speed humps that I didn't expect. So it's not, we've never gotten a list before, and I don't know that it's a process that we can do. We can hold it, but to hold it for a list is not, doesn't make sense.
Look, sorry,
Yeah, please do.
I apologize. Look, I thought there was a list that I didn't get that I did actually get, and it was from last year, not this year.
Correct.
So that's why I'm thinking, I think it would be great for the council to have the list in the future, because just like the sidewalks and everything else, I think it helps us get a better understanding of where these dollars are going. I don't want to hold this up. It's 9 o'clock at night. I'm okay with moving this forward. Just, I want to make it clear for the record, public, and I know I sent my list already in. Kent Street, between Ontario and North Main. I got a petition from residents with over 190 signatures because since we put the speed cameras, people are cutting through Kent Street. So to avoid the speed cameras on Washington Avenue for Albany High. So if we can make sure that's on a list, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion for this ordinance? Councilmember Keegan.
I would like to make a motion to move ordinance 37-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, positive recommendation motion received from Councilmember Keegan. We have a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ordinance 37-101-25 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Moving forward, we have ordinance 38-101-25. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $100,000, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $100,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering traffic studies. Is there a particular traffic study location that this is for?
Not in particular, it's when we get, we have a need and we get a request for a traffic study, this is where we build it out of.
Questions on this ordinance? Councilmember Conti.
So it's borrowing money to have in reserve in the event that there is a need, but that we pay interest on?
Authorizing for the potential bonding of. So we're authorizing that they could do it if something comes up in.
So this would
the
not
fiscal.
necessarily be included in the major bond that goes out whenever the treasurer does that next year? What I'm saying is, are we borrowing money to sit?
Yeah,
and
no.
pay interest on it?
So, a request of this magnitude, especially that's sort of contingent on having other needs or funding that this might be a match to. This would unlikely be sold in March when we do our bond sale, and we would probably pick this up on a fully reimbursement basis only.
Okay.
You know, to your point, $100,000 is not going to affect the cash flow.
Additional questions on this bond? Councilmember Farrell.
I move that we move ordinance 38-10125 through the committee with positive recommendation.
Thank you. We have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrell. We have a second from Councilmember Ballerin. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 38-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next is ordinance 39-10125, an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $4,500,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $4,500,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering renovations to city buildings.
Yes. The city owns 62 buildings. They're all old. Next year, we're going to be putting a new roof on a horse barn at the farm. Swinburne Park skating rink needs a new roof. We're looking at putting a new kitchen in South Station. Engine 9 fire station needs a new floor. However much money you want to give me, I could spend.
Thank you. Questions on this ordinance? Councilmember Ballerin.
Thank you, sure. Just to be quick, so we're fixing the roof in Swinburne Park?
Yes.
So is the ice skating rink going to be open this winter?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. But next year it'll be open?
Yes, it will.
Okay, that's good news. Thank you. Okay, then I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to move ordinance 39-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Okay, we have positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Ballerin. We have a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 39-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Moving forward, we have ordinance 40-10125. This says an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $330,000 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $55,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering, climate smart community planning. Is this can you explain this discrepancy? The 330 versus the 55.
Oh, so the entire project cost is $330,000. The anticipation is we've applied for $275,000 of state aid through the CFA process, and the $55,000 is the local match. And similar to sort of the conversation we had on the traffic studies, you know, this would be contingent on being awarded the CFA, or we are unlikely to do this. This planning project is for natural resource and HVAC efficiency plans for the city.
Thank you. Questions on this ordinance? Councilmember Keegan.
I just want to make sure, because we bonded for AFD to also do climate smart, energy efficiency improvements in a totally separate bond, so these would be separate projects in different buildings, correct?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a plan, really a feasibility study. That's what this is. What we discussed with fire was switching out some of their window units and trying to maybe do some mini split systems inside their 100-year-old firehouses where central forced air just wouldn't obviously be possible. So that's like the fire stuff is a concrete project.
So this is going to be a much more fuller assessment of all city properties and what the actual capital plan would be.
Yes.
And feasibility. Okay, I understand better now. Thank you. I'm sorry. Where are we? I move ordinance 40-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Motion.
Okay, we have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan. We have a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 40-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Next, we have ordinance 41-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1 million, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $1 million serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering ADA compliance.
Yeah, that's for curb ramps, fixing sidewalks, striping, and, you know,
I would note that we usually do wait on this until we get the street sidewalks and roadway list, but it's never felt right to me to wait on this because I feel like we need the other parts too anyway, so.
Councilmember Keegan.
Isn't this part of the 10-year ADA compliance plan that's already, no, this is separate from that.
I personally would be happy moving this through. We still would need the streets and sidewalks to do that part. It's not as if they're going to be going around making ADA compliance, and it's never felt good to me to hold it up. So I would be happy to make a motion to move ordinance 41-10125 through the committee with positive recommendation.
Thank you. We have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Farrell. We have a second from Councilmember Keegan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ordinance 41-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. We are going to hold on ordinance 42-10125. This is engineering sidewalk reconstruction, and we are going to hold on ordinance 43-10125. This is engineering street reconstruction. And we will await a list that will come hopefully soon. The final ordinance for this evening. Nope, got ahead of myself. The second to last ordinance.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know that goes to them though.
The third to last ordinance for this evening is ordinance 44-10125, an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $650,000, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $650,000 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering, streetlights, capital improvements.
that's basically for upgrading or replacing existing lighting system.
Thank you. Councilmember Keegan.
I would like to make a motion to move ordinance 44-10125 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan. We have a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor? Aye. Ordinance 44-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Ordinance 45-10125. This is an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $7,732,000, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $6 million serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof, engineering, Washington Park traffic reconfiguration. I assume similar to this one, we're looking for some additional funding.
Yeah, we've been awarded $2 million in state aid for this project. You guys appropriated the $270,000 on the design for 2025, and this is the remaining 1,732 of state aid for the construction.
So total cost of project, including design, would have been $8 million.
Yeah, I think it was 8.4. Yeah.
Thank you. Questions on this ordinance? Councilmember Keegan. Oh, any questions on this ordinance? Okay. Without further ado, Councilmember Keegan.
Make a motion to move ordinance 45-101.25 out of committee with positive recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Positive recommendation motion from Councilmember Keegan. We have a second from Councilmember Farrell. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Ordinance 45-10125 moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. Now, we are at our last ordinance for this evening. Ordinance 54-10125, an ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $250,000, and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $62,500 serial bonds of said city to pay the cost thereof. Neighborhood services, which will need to amend to engineering. Lincoln Park connector. Yes.
Sure, knock yourself.
So this is to design some sort of connecting pathway between the museum, Empire State Plaza property, and the Lincoln Park. Again, we've applied for a CFA grant with the bonds making up the match. And, you know, we anticipate sort of handing that design over to the state for them to complete as part of the museum/Empire State Plaza project.
Thank you. Councilmember Keegan. Oh. Any question? Okay.
No. I make a motion to move ordinance 54-101-25 out of committee with a positive recommendation.
As amended.
As amended.
Thank you. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ordinance 54-101-25 as amended moves out of committee with a positive recommendation. That has concluded our
Second the motion.
Department of Engineering presentation. Thank you for everything this evening and everything you do.
And Bill, thank you again for coming back.
Yes. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Bill.
Thank you for answering all of my many, many emails.
Okay, awesome. So it's been a long night. Everyone's tired. Motion to adjourn was already done by Councilmember Farrell, and Councilmember Keegan was a second. All those in favor to adjourn tonight? Aye. Thank you, everyone.